Father's Day is just around the corner, and you probably need a gift for a hairy dad. Make your dad proud this year and get him, as well as yourself, the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. Imagine surprising your dad with a sleek, well-designed body trimmer that says, "Your balls will thank you" on the box. He may feel uncomfortable at first, all right? He may back up and go, "Son, relax. What is this?" But trust me, you're doing him a favor deep down, and later on, he will recognize that. So, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code Duke. Don't forget that you came for your dad's balls, all right? This year, show your original home some love with Manscaped.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 20 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast.
And it's me, Carrick, with ACG. We're at 20.
Yeah, I know, right? I thought that when I was making the doc today. It was an eye-opening experience to realize how quickly life is passing me by.
Yeah, no shit. You're getting old. It's game over.
I know.
It's game over.
I know,
it's
dude.
time
I'm
for,
closer
we'll
to
put you
30
out
than
to-
I am to 20, and that's kind of fucking shitty. I hate
Dude,
that.
I'm closer to fucking... Wait a minute. I don't even know what I'm closer to. You're closer to 30 than 20, so you're 26, 27.
I'm about to be 26, yeah.
Wow, I made the worst decisions of my life at 27, bro. I remember them. Very bad decisions. So don't do what I did.
Am I ahead of the game then?
You are ahead of the game. You've got a channel. I mean, I was working, but boy, wow. Dude, yeah, I was making...
I did all that when I was 17, 18. Yeah,
Oh, did you?
That's where all that was.
I
don't know what you did, but that's when I was a
straight-laced.
moron. Those are my most moronic years for
Yeah,
sure.
I
High
just-
school.
a
Oh my
lot of-
gosh.
Oh man, yeah, I was pretty okay, and I mean I did squirrely stuff, but 27 was like, yeah, almost getting stabbed by girlfriends. There's some unique
dude.
times. Yeah, we'll have to talk about it off channel so nobody gets sued. But no, that's funny. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, there's a good 20 years. No, not 20 years. It's about 16 years separating us, which is crazy when you think about it, man.
It makes
Like-
our show good, though. I think we have this. You have more experience. I have sort of I'll put this in quotes, like the new age perspective, and I think we're both pretty educated, so it makes it a good listen, I feel.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, it's
I feel
definitely
we
good. I
always
was going to
feed off
say
each
we've
other's
also been
strengths pretty
doing
well.
it for 5 years, which is crazy.
That's true. That
Because that
helps.
means you were 20
Yeah,
when we
20.
22 when we started. Yeah, that's friggin' insane. That's,
You were like, yeah, I'm gonna team up with this asshole. Let's go. I'm gonna run
But
this
it
shit
shows-
into the ground.
it shows exactly what I do, though. I'm like, I don't care how old they are, man. Let's jump into this and do something really stupid. 21-year-old, fucking me jumping in there. Let's talk about video games, and it worked out. It didn't go
It did.
crazy.
Yeah.
Not
So
so
to those of you who are listening, we hope you're having a horrendous day. I wished you a lot of great days. So we hope it's just not good. I'm not doing well. In a moment, I'm going to step away. I turn on the AC here, and it's blowing out heat, and it is like the vents above me, and it is blowing. It is fucking hot right now. I am not feeling comfortable. I need to be comfortable.
nasty.
We're going to be here for a couple hours. Yeah, so I'll be stepping away in just a moment, but we have to go through our housekeeping, and then we'll dive into some opening questions. All right, so first and foremost, Last Stand Media about to hit 12,000 patrons. It's on its way, looking really good. A lot of that's thanks to all of our shows, but Colin's been doing some great work on Sacred Symbols Plus with interviews with like David Jaffe, Ryan McCaffrey. They've been great listens. I've tuned in myself, so please do be sure to check them out. They've been good. And we just want to thank all of you for supporting our shows. We had 60-plus write-ins in this episode, which was a new record for us. So we are very happy to answer all of your questions. As always, we have 5 beginning questions, 5 ending questions, and we throw your submissions throughout the show when they align with news bits. So just keep in mind when you're topical, even more questions get featured. With that in mind, if you are a patron, you get early access on Thursdays over at Last Stand Media. If you don't like the sounds of that and you want to wait, all right, whatever. Bit of a freeloader, bit of a POS move. That's fine, though. You can wait till Sunday. We'll allow it. By the way, some people Don't get my sarcasm. You know where I'm going with this, right?
I absolutely fucking knew where you were going. I just spilled water. I knew where you were going with this the moment you started talking. Continue.
I was like, I sound like an asshole. I'm a very sarcastic person. Someone thought I was judgmental of the lifestyle of a viewer who ate SpaghettiOs and wrote in about it. I want everyone to know, nice and early, I'm going to rib you constantly. I am a very sarcastic person. Just know that. So I'm not this judgmental,
Can I
egotistical
just for
prick.
a second talk about the logic of somebody bitching that somebody else has an issue with them or an issue with somebody else because they said they were eating SpaghettiOs, so they left. Like, that's double immaturity. That's like, I mean, how do you get there? How do you get there at that point where you write that tweet without, and by the way, I will come at you for that. Like, Maddie may not.
I deleted it. I felt bad at first. I was like,
He may be sarcastic. I am not. You're a child if you're eating SpaghettiOs. But guess what? I have no issue with that. Whatever. I'll probably eat them too. But man, to see somebody react like that was like, oh my God, where are we?
It shows we're growing. That's what I saw it as. I'm like, wow, we're really getting out there.
When the SpaghettiO lovers rebel, you know your Xbox podcast is doing well. Okay.
Man, we're doing something, man. And speaking of which, Defining Duke Ultimate episode 16 over on patreon.com/laststandmedia. We did Challenging Maddie, so inspired by Colin. I thought, hey, let's see how much the audience really has a problem with the stuff I say, because I sit here and I talk to podcasts, my own channel, streams, and I wonder how much I say where people kind of like recoil in their seat. I'll be listening to a podcast in the car, I'll drive to my girlfriend's house, and I'll hear some shit and go like, what the fuck did they just say? And so I was curious how often that happens, and the results were pretty solid. I don't think I'm doing too bad of a job, but some people have challenged me on Starfield, my taste on Danganronpa and the like. So if you want to see me defend myself for about an hour, go ahead and give that a listen. With that, we have some inquiries from the audience before we get to our actual warm-up questions. I'm going to pass the first one to you while I adjust the... Hold on, it's getting cooler. I'm going to wait it out, actually. We'll see. I might have to step away. Anyway, Sweet Baby Ray's up first. Hey, Mr. Maddie and ACG, like an insane person, my son poured his milk before his cereal yesterday. Should I disown him?
No, he's not your kid.
Yeah, right.
She obviously slept with somebody else because you're no kid of somebody intelligent who is our subscriber would have a child so weird. So obviously you're gonna have to talk to your wife about what exactly occurred.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is. Yeah. So just saying that opened up a can of
I can't top that.
Man.
I can't top that. That's all you. That's all you.
I can't. Sorry, bro.
Not that it's a competition, man, but like
you may be looking under the wrong rock. Is all I'm saying.
Andy Cap's up next. Hello, guys. I'm using the restroom at the casino, and someone sits down in the stall right next to me. Looking underneath, all 9 stalls are empty. Is this acceptable bathroom protocol? Should he burn in hell for this move? Love the show. So here's the thing. He's a fucking maniac for coming in and sitting down next to you. We'll get into that in a sec. You're a maniac for leaning over and checking ankles and looking down stalls. You're as weird as him now. You've brought yourself to the level of the man who thought he was more comfortable next to you than a stall all by himself.
Also, you're at a fucking casino taking a dump. Who knows what kind of intravenous drugs they've been doing in that place? I wouldn't take a dump there if my colon exploded. Like, I would take a dump in my front seat before I would go into the casino and take a shit. You have no clue what's going on in there. I'm not lying, man. I don't hot seat it. Most of the, if I were to go, it'd be like 80 of those, the ass gaskets, the paper, we call them ass gaskets. I don't know what their true name is. But at the very minimum, the fact that he's moving around on it and looking, there's too high of a chance of touching that stall coming down with some alien typhoid. So I think you both are pretty fucked, right?
Yeah, dude. I had an uncomfortable bathroom experience just this past weekend. I was at a Starbucks. They have this kind of like restaurant, and it's not like your typical Starbucks cafe. Like, it's a full-on restaurant in New York City.
Oh,
and it was interesting. My girlfriend loves Starbucks, so she's like, "Oh, we gotta check it out." I was like, "Sure, let's go." So we go, and I'm standing there. I'm like, "Fuck, gotta use the bathroom." Hey, I'm gonna go. So I go ask one of the employees, because this place is huge. Please look it up for those who are curious. And so I asked the employee, I'm like, "Where's your bathroom?" She's like, "Oh, it's down the elevator." And I'm like, "Holy, okay." Wow. Down the elevator. So that's how big this place is. She's like, "First floor." I'm like, "Okay, sure." So go down the elevator, and I walk, and I see a group of women washing their hands in a bathroom area. And, immediately, like, I'm turning in there thinking it's the bathroom, and I walk away, right? I get nervous because I'm like, I don't want to be creepy. Like, I don't want to walk into the woman's bathroom. So I'm looking around thinking, like, there's a men's bathroom somewhere, and I can't find one because I walk along, and there's another stair set that leads somewhere else. And I'm like, okay, I'm dying here, and I don't know what's going on. So I look, and it turns out this is like this unisex bathroom area where they have stalls that close and lock. Not the typical stalls like handicapped here where you can peek at ankles. These were stalls, they were like rooms, and you go in there, and so it was this, they were like private bathrooms, but there were tons of them. But they were all in the same area, so male or female, it did not matter. Everyone could go in the same area. It was quite strange.
It sounds like the starting of a CSI Miami murder moment, where like you're at the starting, you're the guy at the Starbucks who goes downstairs in an elevator, and then gets stabbed.
Yeah, I'm in like the boiler room.
Caruso comes in and like puts his
go.
glasses on, and he's like, "It looks like this was the end of Maddie's days," and then it'd be like a Days Gone commercial or something. I don't think I've ever. I mean, it's rare for me to go, piss, sure, but if you got to, man, like, I don't know.
I braved that public bathroom fear when I was young because I realized, man, it's just a survival tactic at this point. Like, I feel like you gotta overcome that.
Go outside.
So the world was your toilet.
The world, if you had to, like I didn't live in the city, so you were either near a shitter or you were dying of dehydration and getting eaten by bears for some strange reason. You were always pretty close to something. So, and certainly no Starbucks with an entire restaurant. I've never even heard of that. Like I don't even know what that looks like. Yeah,
I got the worst green tea in my life. I got the saltiest avocado bread.
Well, is that why you had to go to the bathroom? Because caffeine will make your stomach, like, if you have too much... Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, this was before. It was just not a good sequence there at Starbucks, but I don't go there ever, so there's a reason why. Just know that. East of Eden's up next. Carrick, any idea how Days Gone's review is your most viewed video ever? I just wanted to tap in on that because, like, I have this formula, if you will, where like I know when I get a feeling like this video can hit well, right? Like when I'm doing repeat coverage and then it's time for the review, like Outer Worlds or Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Did you expect this with Days Gone? Like this kind of like wow.
I didn't even know it was number one. I don't even know what my like top 10 videos are, let alone my number one. So no, I wouldn't have. I can't remember. Days Gone didn't have a lot of what do you call it? But Days Gone sold quite well, and because it was mediocre. I could see a lot of people watching to figure out which side somebody fell on, maybe.
Yeah.
But
it's a good review, too, so of course it is. But I think it represents the game well.
I don't know. I don't know why. I thought for some reason, I know the one that did well was that Third World War, World War Z, which did well. Because I did 3 or 4 videos that were doing really well when the algorithm liked me. And they were just doing really well. And then we went back to normal.
Isn't that
but it was
a
nice.
Great feeling when the computer system really likes you?
I was doing it, and I was like, whoa, these are doing great. And admittedly, Returnal trended, which is the first trending review I've even seen at all for a while. Because reviews, by the way, ain't trending. It's got to be Roblox or Minecraft. That you just do not get trending anymore. But back then, like a couple of those did. Yeah, it was really fun.
Dude, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Last little write-in, we'll get to warm-up questions, which are more focused. This is more of a correction that I hear it, but I don't think about it because of years of experience with Carrick. Dr. Stump says, hello, friends. Not a question, but a critique, if you will. I've noticed that Carrick pronounces Ryan McCaffrey's name wrong. He says Ryan McCafferty. Just thought I'd point this out as it makes me cringe every time. I know I wouldn't like it if someone mispronounced my name each time I said it. Other than that, I love the show. Have a wonderful week. Now, Dr. Stump was a little harsh there. Carrick, you're human. You bring so much to the table. But I still thought it was important to bring up.
So, Brian McCafferty, I would love him on the show. I think Brian McCafferty is probably one of the best.
Let's go. Let's double down. This is what I was looking for. I was like,
I always double down.
I think Carrick's going to double down.
You know me. Now it will never be pronounced right. And by the way, Ryan and I have talked. He's never had an issue. Yes, I probably do pronounce his name wrong. But by the way, I pronounced Mr. Maddie the wrong name multiple times. I did our own podcast wrong forever. What was I calling it? The ham radio broadcast. Dude, even when you were gone,
I call them
one
Carrickisms.
time,
I think they're appreciated.
They are. And people in my chat one day, in the middle of our podcast, while talking 100 miles a minute, I said, intergalactic digging dwarves. And there is a game called, it's somewhat like that. It's where you're in a galactic digging dwarves. But every single person knew exactly what game I was talking about. I didn't get the game right, but we all just kept going. And people in the chat were like, is he talking about this? And everybody was like, oh yeah, for sure. That's just because most of the time I separate the name up into weird shit. And yeah, so it's now Brian McGofferty. And I just want to say, Brian is definitely one of the best people on IGN. I'm gonna fuck it up pretty soon. By the time we get done, it'll be Matt
introduce him that way.
Oh man, and I would never do that if he was on the channel. On the other hand, if Ryan, by the way, if you are watching, which I'm sure he's not, because this person says I would hate it. I'm sure everybody out there is getting their name mispronounced. If Ryan, if you're watching and you want to respond and say, hey, you are, then I will assume you're watching and I will change it.
Mm-hmm. This is our way of getting him on the show. This is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna just catch his attention by saying his name wrong. He's be like, I gotta do it right. I get that though. I mean, I hate when people just call me like Maddie of Defining Duke, and it's like, well, there's more, but that's personal.
I'm Carrick. I'm Jeremy. I've got like 10 names. I'm asshole.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm asshole. Yeah, I'm Shill. So I feel you.
Shill? Is that what?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I get it.
I've heard more choice words, but that's probably the most PG one.
That's the most acceptable one.
Yeah. All right, now for our actual warm-up questions. Adam Thim is up first. Hey there, D-Generation X. With the news that Warner Media is being spun off and sold to Discover, Crunchyroll being sold to Sony, and possible Rooster Teeth being sold, do you think it's time to talk about the potential reality that AT&T will be looking to sell its gaming division as well? With the massive cost to make video games and inflation starting to kick in, it seems like the next few months we could see a sale of gaming division being more possible than it was before. Thanks, and have yourself a wonderfully flaccid day. Very interesting choice of words there. I thought this was kind of relevant because we didn't put it in our news section because it's more so speculative. And I mean, this comes from a guy who likes speculation, but there hasn't been like a direct connection that their divisions are going to be sold off. It's just that you see a development here. For those who don't know, what's happening is like AT&T sold off its Warner Media assets to Discovery, as Adam said here. And so it's also resulting in their games division being broken up. So Discovery's getting some assets. Some are staying with AT&T. And it's being kind of put all over the place where when you look back last summer, there was a rumor that Warner Games, or Warner Bros. Gaming division was going to be sold off, and Microsoft, Sony, and I want to say EA were the names that were floating around about that.
I think Tencent is already somewhere in there as well.
Yes, that would make a lot of sense. And so what's happening is people are wondering now with AT&T struggling and selling off, splitting up these divisions, is it going to lead to a potential sale? So I thought it was a pretty wise topic to discuss here. And so I want to know, what do you think about where Warner Bros. Games is going, right? Because we got the likes of really the heavy hitters are Rocksteady and NetherRealm. I think those are the two big gets
from
you
that
get
group.
From that. Right. Like, of course, there's Mad Max developer, the name
Avalanche?
is escaping me. Thank
Avalanche.
you. Yeah, I think that they fall in that bin. And there's some others. But overall, I think those are the two big gets. So I know you love Injustice. You love the customization, the multiverse, and all that stuff. And Mad Max. So I know this really speaks to you probably more than it does to me. I'm just a Rocksteady fan, if anything. But what do you make of what's going on with Warner Bros. Potentially?
Well, so what he's saying is that they've sold it to Discovery, and then he thinks they're going to sell. Somebody's going to sell it again, because I didn't follow this one very closely.
Kind of like offloading it eventually, because
Sure.
it's not making them money, and with costs going up.
Yeah, I mean, or you will see them figure out a way to make money, which could be worse. That is one thing. Is you could have somebody be like, I don't want Sony to buy him, or Tencent to buy them, or Microsoft, which, by the way, I think we could all agree about Tencent, but the other ones, and then somebody else should probably pop in at that time and say, well, if they don't, and the company wants to make money, you may be looking at the ass end of microtransactions, mobile-style games, all kinds of stuff that you may not want to see. So, overall, all I care about is another Mad Max. It'll never happen. So I guess I'm just sort of...
You deserve it.
I'm along for the ride.
You deserve it.
Yeah, I have been a proper fan of that game.
You deserve it. I think I would love to see them do it again. I was not as crazy about it. I liked it. I thought the free flow crunchiness of that game was incredible. I thought the car combat was awesome. And I think now if I went back to it, I would appreciate it a lot more, because I think you knowing there's that, we'll say, Ubisoft element of the checklist open world. I think when you expect that, it becomes a little more easy to digest. I'd love to see them come back and take a crack at that again. seems like Avalanche is working on
Yeah,
something else that I think.
Well,
people
that's
will be
what I
very
was going to
excited
say. Is I don't know. Some things may have already like I don't know what's going on that part, the Avalanche in particular, and certain things that are going there. So, by the way, so that everybody's listening, there's multiple Avalanche companies. Please understand that.
Yes,
even I didn't
the best
know that.
one, I think.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, but it can be quite easy to mix up. So.
Yeah, for me, I think obviously whoever could get in and just take even one or two of these studios, because I don't know how, if the assets are being split up amongst all these companies, Discovery, AT&T, and how they're going to offload certain things. I do wonder if you could just maybe grab, let's say your PlayStation, your Xbox, could you just say, like, let's get NetherRealm? Like, if I were Xbox and I saw the potential to get NetherRealm, I think that is a must get, because we've been talking on this show for pretty much since its inception that they need a fighter. They don't have fighting. And when you look at Sony, it makes a lot more sense, right, with Evo and
they got Evo.
Their background of fighters. But if you're Xbox, I mean, you've got Killer Instinct as your big thing, and that's really it. And when you know that, well, I shouldn't say no. The rumor right now is that NetherRealm's working on a Marvel fighting game.
Right?
I personally haven't heard anything. Yeah, but that would be awesome. But that would
be a pretty big get if some company, if some company showed up and they were like, I mean, even though I don't know how their sales are and I don't know how much money they make after the IP, but it'd be a pretty crazy moment to have somebody be like, oh yeah, by the way, Mortal Kombat and Injustice 3, which I think we all know an Injustice is obviously at some point coming out, and then something with Marvel. That's pretty crazy. That's definitely would be a good get.
Yeah, they kind of have that like TT Games power where NetherRealm can just go to any IP, because they do a really good job. Like there are certain fighters I like from them more than others, but they always do a pretty good job with the IP and respecting it and casting a light on certain things that are normally brushed under. Like the B tier heroes. We talked about that a lot with Injustice 2.
Yes.
Where there are some names that you don't see get enough credit, that shows that there's a passion for the property. So they always do a good job with that. So they can really lay their hands on anything. So I'd love to see them get in the fold of whether it be PlayStation or Xbox and just really start cranking away. But ultimately, right now, those are some of our thoughts, Adam. So thank you for writing in. Jake Williams is up next. Hey, Maddie and Carrick, bit of a personal question this week. I always find this interesting. They preface it with a personal question. I'm thinking like they're going to ask me about my family, and then they talk about video games.
Is 2 inches really just that long? Anyway, sorry, dick joke. Here we go, already descending into the pecker jokes, and we're only like 40 minutes in.
Jake. Anyway. I always check reviews on games that interest me before I buy them. My friends do not, and claim I shouldn't have to listen to somebody else's opinion on a game before their opinion may not end up being my own, and to form my own opinion on that game. While I understand their point, I don't want to waste what little gaming budget I have on a game I may not enjoy. Do you think the response to people, do you have a response to people who don't think reviews of games matter? Thanks for the awful podcast.
Yeah,
Jake,
they're fucking dunces.
Yeah, I don't.
Where's this unlimited amount of money that people like, dude? If I was
I would
well
love
off,
the shit money personally. I would love it.
Yeah, so would
I.
I.
Be a big fan.
But here's the thing: multimillionaires, by the way, will actually. I've had like Freddie Prinze Jr., who's I'm assuming a millionaire, married to Jessica Geller, whatever. Email me, or not email me, but DM me about a game. That's like a star, right? You have Post Malone, all these different people talking about games, if they like them, if they don't, and actually watching reviews. I've seen them post. So if these people are still questioning if they should purchase the money, the question this person should have is for your friends and be like, how did you grow up so stupid that you just throw money away? Because you're a fucking idiot. And it doesn't, the difference is that when you look at a review, it does not mean that you are stating that you firmly 100% believe another person. In fact, I would say if you watch enough reviews, you actually become a little bit ironclad, because you see all these reviews and you go, I didn't agree with this, I didn't agree with that. And I actually feel like there's a bit of a tougher thing than that bullshit where you spend money and you have to defend it because you spent the cash anyway. It's a dumb thought process. It makes absolutely no sense, and it assumes an unlimited amount of cash. And nobody has that. I mean, a Saudi oil sheik has that. But I don't think normal people have that. And it's It's just, sorry, but your friends are asses. I hate that opinion. I hate that opinion about anything in life. I hate that opinion.
Yeah, it's very rare you come across an opinion that's considered wrong, right? It's not like, oh, it's just my thoughts. No, it's not. No, it's not. You've chosen to be dumb today. There's a selection, right? Stupidity is chosen. So when it comes to my response personally, it's exactly Carrick's. Why are you going to intentionally lose money? Because here's the thing: is I always, and you'll see this come up time in, time out. I'm a very strong believer that information is important. So while I try to critique games to the best of my ability, one thing I always try to do in my reviews, and I know Carrick does the same thing, is you just pound away with information. You may be sitting there thinking, this does not matter to me, but this thing may matter to someone. Right. Like, that's the idea, right? Like, I will cover sound because
context.
To me, sound is an important part, but for someone else, based off the investment they've made on new headphones, their surround system, it changes things. And so people are looking for these little details. And I think it's so important. You should tell your friends what you should actually do before purchasing a game is listen to a ton of reviews, get a good idea of what you're stepping into, right? Ask your friends, did they walk outside and then see a pile of dog shit and just lift their foot up and step in it intentionally, right? Because that's what they're doing here. They're making a mess.
There's a lot of bad games,
and they have to clean it up afterwards. Right? You buy a bad game and you're like, I got to go clean this up now. I got to go defend this game. And that's where you get this tribalism in gaming. Information is power. Tell your friends to start embracing it.
Also, I would say this. If your friends are that invested in this kind of stuff, then maybe just tell them you've been listening to their impressions of games prior to getting them. So I don't think you have to listen to ours. So if somebody says, oh, they're reviewers, this is be the answer. As I always say, just watch other people, too, because you're going to need to know. Somebody else may be better at explaining art than I am or whatever. You should gather that data. And the fact is that a lot of people will pretend, but I can guarantee you, if you got your 3 friends in a room, one of them would tell you what they thought of a game. And by the way, that's a review. The thing that bothers me is when people pretend they don't take anybody else's thoughts into context, and you find out they watched 12 previews, and then they talk to 10 friends who already owned it. And you're like, do you fucking realize that is a review? Even if you only ask your friend, in Injustice, Swamp Thing, is he a cool character? You just got a review of Swamp Thing, and most likely you also got some context on the fighting systems as well as the upgrade systems and so forth. Those are reviews, whether they're called that or not. And in fact, many times they lack context. So I just find this kind of thing, it's always been egotistical to me. And by the way, it doesn't mean I'll agree. I've had multiple people say this band is bad, and I bought their record afterwards because I did listen to a little music, just like you might watch a little video. You hear some people say, I didn't like it too much, and you're like, you know what, though? I've listened, I get where you're coming from, or maybe I don't, but I'm still going to buy it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the purposeful shutting off of context and information that frustrates me in life. It's such a closed off idea. I just don't like it.
Indeed. Number 3, Brandon McDade. It's your lucky day. Hey, gents, first time writing in. Look at that. First time, you're 1 for 1. But I've been a fan of the show since day one. Thank you. I wanted to ask if the legacy of Xbox is overblown. Halo and Gears get a lot of love, but outside of these franchises, it seems like there's a lot of other first-party games that are dead on arrival. For example, Voodoo Vince and Stubbs the Zombies were remastered and didn't make waves. Fable is viewed with rose-colored glasses. Jade Empire and Fusion Frenzy, while cult classics, are hardly talked about. Does the long-term generation-spanning titles hinder Xbox, and is it a motivating factor behind its transition to a more service-oriented offering? Apologies for the long question. Curious to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
I would agree.
Very good question. Very good question.
I sort of agree on all of them, but Xbox in particular, he's right. Voodoo Vince and Stubbs didn't release just on Xbox in their re-releases, though, which he's getting that mixed up. So those games weren't necessarily just hot because they were good games. They were hot because they were also exclusives at the time. Yeah. Which I think people are those don't actually connect. But he's right. They are, dude, yes. Like, it happens all the time where people be talking about the Xbox, and even you and I've said this, and I'm like, dude, seriously. Halo, Gears, this and this. I do the same thing with Sony, though, but I'm like, a lot of times I hear people say there's some IP list, and they do have some good IPs, but a lot of times people are questioning why they go to other companies. And I'm like, dude, some of their IPs sound cool, but are they? Like, You know what I mean? Like, you have to be honest with yourself sometimes and be like, are they cool now? Would they be cool now? Stubbs a Zombie, bad idea to remaster it, by the way. That's my take.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't, because here's the thing, right? Is I think if games like Jade Empire, Fusion Frenzy, and Death Row were remastered, these are cult classic Xbox games that if they were brought to a bigger audience, I think they would do well. Jade Empire, especially with BioWare enjoying a strong remaster release, yeah. But I think Fusion Frenzy, may stay a little more cult classic. I think Death Row would do really well nowadays. But the reality is that I think what happened with Xbox is this comment sort of puts a spotlight on the amount of small hits that they've built up over time, and I think that's where their fan base comes from. Everyone who writes in is like a big fan of a particular franchise, right? We do get our Gears and Halo fans, but yeah, right? Like we get these write-ins for these games that people hold very closely to them, but that aren't super popular, and that's sort of in a lot of ways, like we talk about Lost Odyssey here. I think that's my big Xbox exclusive that I like to talk about that is underappreciated next to Jade Empire. Not every game from Xbox was like a KOTOR, which was one of the biggest RPGs of all time.
Brute Force was terrible.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. So I think it's a testament to sort of what they've built over time. And I don't know if it's really a motivating factor, but rather a place where it fits more, right? They like to do these things. They like to do these smaller titles, and they like to do these experiments. And if the service orientation allows that, then I would love for them to take that route, because you all these games that you've listed, although I don't have a particularly strong opinion on Voodoo Vince or Stubbs the Zombie, but the rest of them, and some I've mentioned, if those series can hang around, find an audience, have a second entry, or in the case of Fusion Frenzy, a third entry, because of the service, then that's exactly what they should be doing. They're doing the right thing, and it's bringing life to titles that otherwise wouldn't have some, because people have to spend consistent cash on it. So I think this is a great write-in, but I don't know if overblown would be the right word. I think fans sell particular IP high, but I think most understand that Xbox has an IP issue at this point. And that's why they're buying studios.
Yeah. And that, I mean, things transition, right? Because Sony's got a couple IPs that you just talked about with, not Ratchet and Clank, the other one that you like. Sly Cooper. And you're like, I don't know if it'd do well, blah, blah, blah. And that's what people aren't getting, is that back in the day, Sonic was a big seller. Back in the day, you had to have your racer, your platformer, your fighter. Every console had to have those three, day one. That's not at all what it is now. So those won't sell as well. It's why even with Mortal Kombat, you're like, well, Microsoft maybe, but then you're like, well, do fighters do well enough to buy everything? Would a multiple stable of fighters with a IP? All these things are changing. It's weird, dude, because I grew up in the racing days. Fighting and racing. When that was a big deal, man. If you didn't have your Sega Rally or your Daytona, Gran Turismo, of course, and if you didn't have your Soul Caliburs or a Virtual Fighter, what was it, Toshinden? Yeah, Toshinden.
I have the dual pack that launched with the Xbox with Jet Set Radio Future and Sega GT 2002, I think it was.
2002, yeah. There was that was a thing at that time, and now it's good. There's more games that can sell a console, but at the same time, I think some of those IPs just will never come back. They don't register anymore.
Yeah, it shows where we are, too, in gaming. I mean, with all due respect, Xbox launched with really no games. They did the EA Play Game Pass roll-in. They did a next-gen update for a couple of their games for Series X and S. They really didn't, unless I'm forgetting something, there wasn't a major launch game. It was just alongside service upgrades, and it's selling fine. It's not destroying the market. I think they'll get momentum over time if it seems like starting in the fall, they start to get these quarterly releases going. We'll talk about that in a little bit with our first bit of news. But I think it shows times are changing. So great write-in, Brandon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, very much.
Father's Day is just around the corner, and you probably need a gift for a hairy dad. Make your dad proud this year and get him, as well as yourself, the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the Lawnmower 4.0. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DUKE at manscaped.com. Look, Every single man has lost this battle. They've gashed their balls, and it has been an unpleasant sight. And while you don't want to think about it, your dad has lost that same battle as well. That's why Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and just launched this Lawnmower 4.0. Imagine surprising your dad with a sleek, well-designed body trimmer that says, "Your balls will thank you" on the box. He may feel uncomfortable at first, all right? He may back up and go, "Son, relax. What is this?" But trust me, you're doing him a favor deep down, and later on, he will recognize that. Now, you might ask yourself, how is the Lawnmower 4.0 different from other trimmers? Well, this upgraded trimmer includes a multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel lock. This is a great feature if your father or yourself do a lot of traveling. So, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code Duke. Don't forget that you came for your dad's balls, all right? This year, show your original home some love with Manscaped.
Number 4, Mo. Hello, Maddie and Carrick. With Microsoft implementing things like backwards compatibility and frame rate boost, what other console features would you guys be most supportive of coming to Xbox? One thing that comes to mind for me is something like PlayStation's Share Play feature, which allows players to stream games to friends and even let them take control of the game for up to an hour at a time. Another would be the picture-in-picture feature that allows players to multitask by having another app display on the screen while simultaneously playing a game. Just wondering what feature y'all would want the most, and how realistic do you think their implementation would be? Keep up the great work. Thank you, Mo. I would agree with this, but to make sure that I don't repeat too much, I'm going to pick platinum trophies. I think these sell thousands of copies. I think it's really important to a certain audience. I like the rare achievements, but I think there just needs to be that one final achievement that says you got all the achievements, and give it a special name, give it a special sound, an icon, call it a day. I think Xbox is long overdue to do something like this. I know you don't like that stuff, and I know there are plenty of people who don't care, but I think it matters to a lot of people, and there's definitely an audience that buys games on particular consoles just because they, in the case of PlayStation, want to get the platinum. I think Xbox should try to compete there. That would be my pick. I would love to see them do some type of final digital goodie, and I always talked about this with PlayStation. They did it with Persona 5 Royal. It's spotty with certain games, but like, I would love to see digital goodies come alongside these trophies. So you get the platinum, you get like a wallpaper, a dynamic wallpaper that you can use for your the background of your console. Like, it's a thing you earn. So it's not just getting the ding and that's it, and you get like a little dopamine rush. It goes beyond that. Like I said, last game I can recall I did this was Persona 5 Royal. They'd email you and let you know like you've unlocked new wallpapers for certain points in the story. And these were like dynamic themes, and it was great. Obviously, they didn't carry over to the PS5. But I would love to see Xbox do something like this, personally. I think of the controller a little bit, too. I think that's more important. But for me, I'm a gimmicky guy. What can I say? What about you? What matters most to you?
Not as gimmicky as me, because mine's going to be twice as gimmicky. First of all, picture-in-picture was already done, canceled, will never come back to the Xbox. Will never come true picture-in-picture like that, probably won't ever come back because of how they split the memory. But, man, voice commands. Gimmicky as fuck, I don't care. I love voice commands. I use them on the PC all the time. I use them to edit. I even told Dustin that when one of the first times Dustin was on the channel, I was like, dude, I use voice attack to edit my videos. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you just go PC cut, PC paste, PC move, PC, you know, you're like, once you get good at it, you can have all these different controls. I think it'd be awesome for accessibility. Just let people go. If you want to use them and say we're turning off achievements, whatever, I don't care. But the idea of me playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which, by the way, the original Mass Effects, what did they do? They allowed the Kinect. You could actually do some voice commands. But imagine you're playing Legendary Edition. Yeah. And imagine, listen to this. I've done this, by the way. VR does this currently in Skyrim. Imagine you're Shepard in the very first discussion in Mass Effect, and you say the words, and Shepard doesn't say them, but then it goes to the choice of what you just said. You're Renegade, which, by the way, Skyrim currently does in the VR version. You can download Dragon Natural Speak, I think is what it's called, or Dragonborn Natural Speak. It's a play on the voice text. I'd kill. I would kill to be able to say, Garrus, kick that guy's ass. Garrus, go shoot him. Or fucking Rex, defend me. Or blah, blah, blah. I think it's so far past actually supposed to be there. I'm confused, because the PC, you can do any of that. And the idea that the consoles haven't jumped on that shit is just mind-blowing to me. And I think would be fucking amazing. Ubisoft games. What if you could say stuff like, what's the bird's name? I can't remember. They've all got a bird or an owl or a fucking pterodactyl, whatever. You got something flying in space, right? Yeah, and you could space, air. But imagine being like, whatever the name of the eagle is, and telling it to like go search instead of pressing the button. It sounds small, but I got to tell you, as somebody who uses voice in games, fucking next level
button
immersion.
You got to press.
But it feels,
puts you in there a little bit more.
It feels so good to be like, go fucking kick that dude's ass, and he goes. It's awesome, man. It's awesome. I want it now.
Yeah. I think that's overdue, and I don't want to say it's not hard to implement. I should say that's something that is
but it feels
a thing
easier,
that we could
right?
do.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do that. Number 5, and then we'll get into the news. Steven Sumagut writes in, "Hey, Dukes. I'm entering 2 years at my job as a marketing communications coordinator. My annual review is coming up. What's your best strategy in negotiating a pay raise? Can already picture popping that bottle of champagne."
Negotiating a pay raise? Okay, so that's a newer thing, just so you guys know. I've never had to negotiate a pay raise. If I did, I'd just quit the job, but that's prior to COVID. I'd be like, why am I negotiating the pay raise? That makes no sense. Like, I'm here, I'm doing this, you should step me up. But if you have to negotiate, man, just make sure you keep good records of whatever you do. And if there's no metrics to track what you do, and you didn't do it this time, man, make sure you do it your next year. Most of my jobs had pretty easy to track metrics, but you have to prove that you're worth it. You have to. Because these companies now, man, they'll burn you.
My main experience with this is really through sponsorships, so I apologize if it's not like super helpful. But yeah, I've had sponsors try to lowball me, and I've literally sent them stats. I remember I had an interaction with one sponsor, and he was completely lowballing the fuck out of me, and I was just like, I'm not going to do it, because like what happens is companies will say, oh, we just want a 30-second ad. It's like, you're still on my channel. It doesn't matter if you're there for 15, 30 seconds or a minute. You are literally on my channel. You are being branded there. Yes, there is a factor in how long you are there, but people will remember whether it's 30 seconds or 60 seconds. That makes no difference in this case. But they try to scale accordingly with that. Anyway, this guy was trying to say that based off my stats, he was just like, typically, I gave him my rate, and he was like, typically we do that for someone who gets 1 million impressions a month. And so I'm like, hold on. So I go to my analytics, and I got 3 million impressions a month. And that month, I have more now. So I screenshot and I send to him. I say, all right, so it's actually going to be higher now because here's my impressions. I get 3 million a month. So based off your rate, this is what you'd probably be paying me. And I'm going to be honest, Steven, you just put your dick on the table, man. Like, that's what you got to do, because these companies will try to get you for cheap. They're operating as a business, right? They're not pieces of shit for it, but they're going to do what they're going to do. Their job is to negotiate you as low as humanly possible and keep you happy with it. So yeah, in this case, I had to be like, nope, this is not how it's going to go. And yeah, you feel a little off about it because you're pretty much telling them like, you're going to pay me this, or I'm walking. But if they say no, and that's it, you walk. My friend just got a new job, and he was talking to his old job, and they're like, I'll stay at this amount. And they're like, we'll give you $2,000 less than what you asked for. And he's like, no, I make this company better, and $2,000 shouldn't decide that. And so he walked, and he went to his new job. Even though it paid a little less, he had better benefits, and he was like, I'm going to have a higher ceiling there. I'm going to raise up the ladder more. And it's like, yeah, do that. That makes more sense. So yeah, it's just, Steven, it's a lot of dick on table energy. That's what you got to do, in my opinion.
And metrics. Because somebody may ask you to measure your dick, and you got to have the numbers.
Yeah, and if you're like Jake with 2 inches, then
Yeah, if you're like, unfortunately, that's maybe you got some motion, and some lotion, and you can get away with the 2. But overall, I would say, as long as you have good metrics and you can like prove what you do and what you're worth. I don't know that job because that's sort of out of my bailiwick, but I would say pretty much all the jobs are sort of the same. You have to prove it. On the other hand, I've had really good bosses that have proven it for me. So, like, that's another thing. If you've got a good boss, sometimes the negotiation isn't really a negotiation other than an agreement that your boss, supports you staying there and getting more. It depends on that.
I don't consider Colin our boss, so to say. because we're more like, I think, collaborators. But I digress. When we were talking about our pay for the show, Colin gave us a raise almost immediately and was just like, hey, is this cool with you? Like, it was not a negotiation. He's like, here's what we agreed on. What do you think of this with Duke Ultimate and everything? And it was like, okay. Like, that's, I think, what a good boss would do, right? Is take the initiative of paying more. All right, into the news. Number one, I'm curious to hear Carrick's thoughts on this because I was really particularly outspoken about a lot of things surrounding this.
Oh, God, here we go.
Yep. Leading the charge of PC and Xbox news this week is a story you may have heard before. The home of this story is Jeff Grubb's Twitter feed, where popular Xbox YouTuber and host of Xbox 2, Randall Thor, posted a tweet about getting super chats surrounding Starfield and how Jeff had supposedly said it wouldn't be exclusive. Jeff quoted that tweet and said the following, quote, Starfield is exclusive to Xbox and PC, period. This is me confirming that, like, go write the story, end quote. That's exactly what happened, as it managed to capture the entire industry across major video game websites like IGN, Forbes, Video Games Chronicles, Windows Central Gaming, Games Radar, and even being featured in many YouTube videos. Perhaps more noteworthy is Jeff Grubb confirming the following day that the oft-reported possibility of Starfield releasing in early 2022 does seem to be the case. In another tweet, this time to Kind of Funny's Blessing Adeoye Jr., Jeff wrote, quote, you are right about the Starfield release date, end quote. Now, we got 3 different inquiries from the audience that I wanted to get into for this, but I wanted to get your first impressions on this news. Like I said, I was really outspoken about it. I made a video talking about it. I made tweets about it. I want to know what camp you're in, if you will, on this whole situation about what I believe is news that's not news being news.
Welcome to the club, everybody. I already said all this. That's the only thing I responded, because I got DMs too, and I was like, I have no clue what's happening. I'm not going to look on Twitter, because sometimes I get a DM and I'm like, fucking just don't even want to talk about this shit anymore. And especially with rumors. That's why I just teased you prior to going into the podcast about the Bethesda rumor. Well, it wasn't you. It was you and Skull Cap or whatever his name is. But I was like, what's his name? Scalzi? Yeah. What do I call him? Skullcap? Anyway, so there we go. Brian McGarfity and Skullcap will be the next guests on our podcast. But so I just said, welcome to the club, because not only those are both things. And by the way, you can go back and check this that I've stated a long time ago. I have no clue if sources are different for different people. I'm truly starting to believe that, though, because some of these are way late, where people are like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why the fuck? We've talked about that. Like, that's known. What is happening? So I don't know whose sources are what. I'll just say with this one, people are way late on it. No, it's not news. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is going on, but it's not news.
I agree. We'll talk about the nature of the potential delay. I think that is kind of news. And we'll talk about, of course, Starfield exclusivity in general in this conversation. But I really do feel like the bigger conversation here is the pipeline of information. Because what's really interesting is, for example, Windows Central Gaming, Jez Corden, he said back in September that Starfield would be exclusive. And Jez has a great track record. Jez does great work. I don't know, why wasn't it news then? I like, it's almost like the industry denial. Like, that's the thing. It's like the industry denial occurred for months. And then here's the thing, right? And by the way, I want to preface all this by saying this is no disrespect to Jeff Grubb or his reporting. He's just doing his thing, right? At the end of the day, though, when Jeff Grubb has made more headlines about this exclusivity than Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, I don't know what we're doing here. When he takes the stage and says this deal of Bethesda, when they acquired Bethesda, they were doing a roundtable. When he says this deal is about bringing great exclusives to the table for our customers and where Game Pass exists, especially when you have a product, a known product, by the way, of Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, 2 brand new IP that were contractually agreed. We're not even accounting for Imran Khan's tweet and the general consensus across the industry that Starfield was going to go to PlayStation at first as well. But you have 2 new IPs that are exclusive to PlayStation. Why would this other new IP suddenly be multi-platform? Why was that ever an expectation? And once again, the fact that Jeff Grubb made the headlines when Phil Spencer himself said it blew my mind. And I knew a lot of people would probably receive it that way. Most didn't, but some did, of it sounding whiny, because I was just like, why the fuck is this news, man? I was a little stunned by it, because I thought, number one, that's a dangerous level of denial that's occurring. That's what it said to me. If people were, some people were up in arms over it. Some people were like, oh, wow, it's actually happening. I don't understand where the surprise in that is. The reason I say that is I always go back to Final Fantasy, right? I think the most demanded remake, probably of the last generation and for many generations, was 100% Final Fantasy VII. Because there was that whole era of Square Enix doing the re-release, and you have that picture of Shinji on stage, like holding his stomach and laughing at the sky because he just brought fucking misery to thousands of gamers because, you show the Final Fantasy VII logo and it's just a port. That was hilarious, by the way. But anyway, this remake had been demanded for years, and I know Xbox fans would love it. But this is the name of the game, man, and PlayStation locked it down like a smart business would. So I don't understand why PlayStation could come in, and yeah, you could argue, oh, well, Final Fantasy VII originally on PlayStation, whatever. Same thing with Starfield. There's no heritage here, or legacy, so I don't understand really where the denial comes from. But they locked down probably the most demanded remake from that series, a very popular series, and you're telling me that Bethesda, who's now owned by Xbox and Microsoft, cannot make exclusive games, and it's surprising to you that they are. Wake up.
I stated since day one, Xbox exclusive, and I was told 2022. And I've stated that. Even you and I have gone back and forth. But I definitely was told it was not coming out this year. And that and we've talked about it. It's like, is your source the same as mine? Like, because you never quite know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll just stick with what I've been told and what I've always stuck with, which is that it's exclusive and 2022. I think it doesn't really matter to me. One of the things I've done is pretty much shut up about all this stuff now because it's become and that's what I was joking about on Twitter right before we jumped in here. I'm like, check out my podcast for the new deets. Aliens are telling me that Bethesda's, because I don't know. We are at a point where I think what's happening is I think there's some disingenuous leaks from companies. Definitely. And by the way, the more people report random shit, the more they will do it on purpose, which is smart on their point. I would as well. Mm-hmm. If I knew somebody was blathering shit, I'd be like, hey, man, you want some news? And if it turned out wrong, I'd be like, oh, yeah, well, we were trying. So that's a thing. And I think when it comes down to it, people, it's a lot of it is like, hey, check out my deets. This is like, you need to check out my podcast. And I would, I admit, like, there was a couple times where I was like, oh, yeah, this is what I've heard. And then I sort of just, especially the last time, one of the things I said blew up, and it was prior to the Metal Gear thing. And I was just looking at it and seeing all these people attacking each other, which, by the way, I don't get attacked very often, probably because I'm very belligerent. People are just like, I would rather not talk to him.
But
whatever. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's no fun. But whatever happened, I was just like, oh, it's not really doing as much, and it's not as fun because things can change. Businesses, entire companies will release a car late. So obviously a game can be late. And so after a while, tangible discussion, like in a podcast, for instance, you've even teased me and been like, well, are we going to hypothesize? Yes, but at some point, once you do it too much, you're just, it's masturbatory, right? It's just too much talking. And I think that's what we're seeing here is there was a lot of talking, a lot of, oh, I heard this, it might do this, it might do that. It's like, I just want the game, guys. I'm really done. I'm like, and I guess it's because it's Bethesda, but it's like, I just want the game. You don't hear this about Fable, which, by the way, I've heard is closer than, somebody said, like, some of these games are like 5 years out on a next con. I don't even remember who that.
It was on Video Games Chronicles. Someone said it was 2023. I was like, no.
Are you talking about? But anyway,
Fable's not that far. Sorry.
But there's not that discussion about Fable, and I want that discussion, by the way. I love that discussion. Because, by the way, one of your people up here said Fable's looked at with rose-tinted glasses, and I'll tell you, if physical VR was possible, I'd punch that dude in the face. Because Fable 1 was fucking awesome. So, anyway, I just want the games to come out, and I don't care too much about this anymore. I just usually blast out on Twitter my thoughts, and then I move on, and I'm like, let's talk about something else. It's fun, but it gets annoying. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's really just, it narrows down to the, I talked about this on my video. I narrowed in on, really, it's the flow of information. Like, what I feel is kind of weird is when you have the head of Xbox who confirmed this already. And I'll admit, by the way, he didn't specifically go, oh, Starfield is exclusive. But come on, what the fuck do we think he means when he says getting Bethesda is about getting exclusive games? And if you don't think it's Starfield, you're kidding yourself. But I want to know really quick your thoughts, and then we will get into Starfield. I was concerned because it seems like if it's not confirmed by Jeff Grubb or by Jason Schreier, there's almost this active denial, this like, well, I'm going to hold back on this. And I don't quite understand that mindset because of two things. Number one, I feel it totally stagnates the potential for information to flow because they are not gatekeeping, but it almost is in a way withholding a discussion that can occur because until they say something, which they may not even be interested in saying anything, or they may just be like us under the assumption like, yeah, it's exclusive, that they don't end up saying anything. So waiting on certain voices to talk for a discussion to occur, I think is pretty bad for gaming in general. But really, it's also just that the notion of news sources coming up that provide information about games. We talked about this with the reviews. Knowing is power. Knowledge is power, right? Like that's the name of the game here. And I just think that what's happening here, I am particularly passionate and outspoken about it, probably to an annoying degree, but I'm not going to apologize for it because I think gaming is better than this. I think it should be bigger than this. I don't think it should come down to a number of voices I can name on one hand. There's way more out there with more legitimate sources, rather, and authority that they can speak on certain topics with. And I want to make it clear when I say all of this before I pass it off to you for some of your thoughts. It has nothing to do with me. Yeah, if you've been listening to this show, you've seen it happen 3 times between Starfield, KOTOR, and Lucasfilm Games. It's happened 3 times to me. I don't care. I just want to give our audience a good show, let them know what we know, and if people want to go ahead and champion our show, let people know the information and know that more is coming here, that's great. For us, it's not really a marketing move. I think we are the reason people listen, right? Like you want to, like if you're just listening for scoops constantly, I would rather people just listen for me and my thoughts. So it's really not any of that. It's just about getting more voices out there and being heard. And I'm always passionate about that. But I want to do you share some of those thoughts? Just because sometimes you can bring me in line, Carrick. You're my second dad, you know. So I rely on you here. What am I going wrong?
If I was your second dad, I'd be pretty young when I had a kid. Though, admittedly, there's probably a bunch of little baby Carricks out there. You know, I don't care. I don't care. Some people are going to care more. Your channel's slightly based on different things than mine are, so your focus and thought process is going to be different than mine. But no, I don't give a shit. It is what it is, and I grew up with IGN being the only place people went to follow for reviews, and over time, it's adjusted to multiple voices. I think everything will. I also think a track record will speak for itself. So, if your track record is good, yours, as in you, if your track record is good, I think people continue to follow you, and they just, you may not have the audience, but they're going to be like, he knows what he's talking about, or he's definitely genuinely telling us at least what he heard. I'm fine with that. I also don't want the scrutiny that those guys have. That's the honest truth. I'm a loudmouth. Yeah. And the consistent scrutiny will only get me to be a loudmouth directly at anybody who argues with me. And people will be like, you shouldn't argue with anybody on Twitter. I disagree. I think it's amazing fun. But it wastes my time. And I think that if, I know something and I say it, almost like, have you ever had somebody tell you from the outside your thoughts or your feeling? You'll be like, dude, what are you fucking doing? What are you talking about? You don't have ESP. Unless you have ESP, unless you are actually supernatural, you are lying. Those kind of things, it happens too much. I let them have that, whatever, I'll just do my review and, do some news videos here and there. I don't really, I think personally, when it comes to certain games, you get more traction when it comes to certain games than other people get for maybe those same games, and then other ones. But I think with a Bethesda, it's just too big, and so the big ones get the biggest hit, whatever that may be.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, overall, I don't.
Okay. No, I wanted your perspective on it. No, that's
we just have different styles of channels.
Yeah,
very much.
I think
so,
that's really well said.
Really, when you look at it.
All right, let's get into some audience questions as well, talking more about Starfield and its future. So number one comes from your boy Nikki V. Hey, King Carrick and El Gablero de Muchas Tites Mateo. Oh, my. Boys.
You know what that means, right?
Yes, I
Okay,
do know what that means. Yeah.
All right.
Nick's just being fucking Nick, you know?
He is just being Nick. I'm going to go into your not your Discord, but I'm going to go into LSM's Discord and just hammer him for the next, 4 hours after this. Mercilessly.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Yeah, absolutely. Boys, is the hype for Starfield getting out of control? Members of the LSM Discord are already calling it their most hyped game despite not knowing anything about it. By the time it releases, the hype could be reaching a breaking point. We could have Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky level of disappointment on our hands. Maddie, obviously the nature of your channel means you're expected to cover all the updates on the game. Do you feel obliged to keep your fans' expectations in check in any way? Cheers, lads. Have a magisterial day, Nick. Yeah, so this is something that I try to keep in check. I tell people all the time, my personal excitement should never be yours. So if I'm there on camera and I'm hyped, I'm not telling you why you should be hyped. I'm saying why I am hyped. Same thing with all of my shows. I say it all the time. But over time, it has become less and less of an issue. More distinctly, I remember with Fallout 4 probably was when I was very excited and people would blame me for the game being a disappointment because I, quote, got them excited. So their disappointment was because of me. And that's a load of fucking shit, by the way. Grow up. But yeah, I try to keep my fans' expectations, or fans, I hate that word. I like to keep my audience's expectations in check. I did it in my last Starfield video. I said, everyone's hype meters are up here and just lower them. Because there's this clip of Todd Howard sitting there talking to, I think it was Phil Spencer, Major Nelson, and Pete Hines. And Major Nelson, Larry Erb, asked Todd about Starfield. And Todd's like, it's getting good hype for a game no one knows anything about. And that's kind of unfortunate for the team in one way, because I'm sure they feel good that people are excited to see what they're doing. It probably gives them some confidence. But when you look at Cyberpunk in your rearview mirror, you can't help but get a little worried because it's out of their hands. They haven't done anything. Every single gameplay screenshot leak that has occurred has all been from the same person drip feeding it from the same build in 2018. Just someone's almost marketing the game before its reveal at E3. That's pretty much what's occurring here, which is a little conspiracy theory. I haven't heard anything on that, but that, it's kind of strange how it's all timing out, I'll be honest. And it's catching a lot of people's attention. And what's happening is curiosity is being created. It's almost identical to Fallout 4, where I am starting to some extent think that there might be someone on the inside working things. The reason I say that is because outside of 76, you've had these extended leaks, ARGs, investigations go on within the community that always drums up this fucking blue ball level of anticipation for everyone to blow their load at E3, where they're like, oh my fucking God, it's the game. And just seeing it in action hypes everyone because now they know, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, I do think people need to just relax. I have no doubt in my mind Bethesda Game Studios can deliver a really good game. All right, you're talking to the right guy here. I've built a channel. Their games have been major building blocks rather for my channel. So yeah, dude, I'm about it. Fallout, Elder Scrolls, I've talked about them all. I've covered pretty much every single game they've ever released. I'm a big fan of their work. It's no secret. If I can tell you, just bring it down a level, everyone can, right? And I don't want to come across preachy, but I know there are people who are very excited. But if there are people in the Last Stand Media Discord, there are people in my Discord getting hype, calling their most anticipated game, look in the mirror. Ask yourself if you're excited about a meal you don't know what it's going to be. Remember, think if you're going to have dinner. I'm excited for dinner. What's for dinner? I don't know. Then why are you excited to eat, bro? Right? Think of it that way. You can't be excited for something that you don't know what it is. There needs to be that core there.
I would agree with all that.
Music to my ears.
I don't really get too emotional about this stuff, so I can see people saying it's their most hyped game maybe because Mass Effect is done. And, they're so most hyped as in it's their next hyped, so therefore they're most hyped kind of thing. And because, who knows? What's that one that got delayed that the previews came out today? Deathloop.
Deathloop.
Yeah, so you got Deathloop. Maybe that'll replace it. Whatever. But we're not anybody's fucking mommy and daddy. So if you're up late at night rocking back and forth with your shitty-ass Cyberpunk copy in your hands. It's on you. Even though you liked it more than I did. But I just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, you should temper your expectations, be excited, but yeah, be aware, like Phil said, man. Or not Phil, it's Todd. Nobody knows. Again, also different channels. You're a Bethesda channel. You like Bethesda, a Bethesda channel. You like Bethesda games more than I do, or have certainly a more vested history. Even though I would say I'm a pretty big fan of like Fallout 4, 3, and Skyrim. But I don't get that kind of feedback usually. You know, either way. Mm-hmm. I do get feedback where people will say, "Holy shit!" when Carrick is excited about a game. I can tell, but I don't think I've ever had anybody say, like, my excitement sold them on it, because I'm usually pretty, at some point in the review, I'll throw that disclaimer in there, you know, some kind of verbal sparring where it's like, for me, you know, it sort of brings them down. I think everybody should do that.
I try to pay so close attention to that, because it's like that little difference maker. They'll be like, well, you didn't say for me. You were speaking generally. It's like,
but I mean, if you're talking in your talk videos, I don't see a problem with excitement. If you're talking in your review videos, maybe, you know, Fallout 4 maybe went crazy, whatever. But if you're doing a video about Mass Effect and you're enjoying it currently or whatever, man, I'm going to be honest. I don't think I'd agree with people who are like, you need to calm down. Because
fuck that, yeah, don't get me wrong, yeah,
you know what I mean. Those are are different kind of videos if they're like just excitement videos. But I don't know, man. It's sort of like getting mad at the drug user for doing the drug. It at some point you're just like, dude, they're there. I can't control them, and that's sort of, I've warned you or informed you of what I think, and then I'm washing my hands of it.
Yeah. Next question about Starfield, RP90. Hey fellas. With Starfield most likely looking at a 2022 release, is there any game that you think could pop into 2021 release from an Xbox game studio? Halo seems to be the only definite release as of now. Could we see a Forza Horizon? What about Wolfenstein 3 before Machine Games goes to work on Indiana Jones? Either way, 2022 to 23 looks like it'll be loaded.
I don't know about Xbox Game Studios. Pretty much, very at all, really. I will say, other studios that aren't them, yes. But those like Forza, I don't know. Yeah, I've heard little snippets about Forza, but they're really small, like stuff you could just make up, if you get my drift. Like, you could just sort of guess, be like, "There's going to be cars in Forza Horizon. Here's my leak." So I'm not 100% sure what's going on with a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, what I ended up doing was double checking with some of my sources on what's going on with the release window, because kind of like what you were saying earlier about people are just talking and you're hearing, like, I saw one report today that it was, I probably shouldn't even say it just because, like, it's totally unconfirmed, but it was just describing what Starfield was going to be like, and I've seen stuff about its flying and its exploration. We're just hearing what it's going to be. So for me, I've just stepped back because I don't want to get caught up in all of that, because what's happening is a lot of people are reporting completely conflicting information on what's happening within Bethesda Game Studios. And it's like, I'm just sticking with what I said, right? I said E3 reveal. I said they're looking at a 2021 release. There's a chance that it slips into 2022. That's all I've said. That's all it is. But I checked in just to see if there's been an update, and all I got was, like, it's just looking more likely now that it's 2022, but they haven't decided yet. So,
but I mean, what
maybe
about
Jeff Grubb knows something more than I.
What about the other game studios?
As for the other game studios,
Forza and stuff, anything?
They were just saying that pretty much they don't know what they're going to do with, like, not they as in Bethesda, like, they are, the sources are unaware of what will happen with, like, a Wolfenstein 3 if they're going to move stuff around, because these two are going to fall near each other. That much is clear, right? Because of just pure, by the way, development cycles. It's been a while since Machine Games has dropped something. They did Youngblood, but that was co-developed by Arcane, so it was not an entire Machine Games project. And so these two will fall near each other. And I imagine what's going to happen here is I would not be surprised if, even if Starfield is ready for the fall, they let it slip to 2022. That's why I think you're seeing a lot of insiders go back and forth between that. Like I said, my report here is it's still looking like potentially 2021, but it is a stronger chance now it slips into 2022.
But anything about Forza or these other? Because I think we know Starfield, but I mean, they're asking like Forza and stuff. Have you heard anything about those? Like the other?
Sorry.
No, that's all right. But they were asking about Forza. I'm assuming also like Gears of War Tactics 2. Or by the way, I'm just saying that name out loud. I haven't heard anything. I'm actually asking you. Have you heard anything about those? Because I don't hear much about that kind of stuff, at least right now, at all.
With Forza, I haven't checked in. Forza, I imagine that has to be something nearby, right? Just because of
so.
I only say that because of how Xbox tends to launch Forza within the console release window every time, right? Like it seems like a thing. And it seems weird that if Playground's working on Fable, that there's got to be a new motorsport, but maybe there's not a pressure for that because, I mean, Forza Horizon 4 is doing insanely well on Game Pass. What I was getting at, though, is there's what kind of taps into what's going on with Forza, what's going on with Wolfenstein is with Starfield, I was saying there's a chance it does slip into 2022, even if it's ready for this fall, because what Xbox is seemingly starting to look at is how can they give you those quarterly big releases for Game Pass and build that service. So what's happening is what I'm seeing is even if Starfield is good to go, they're going to say, hey, let's put Halo in the fall. Let's have that be our big game then. Let's put Starfield early 2021 or 2022. Let's keep getting people into Game Pass each quarter. It's something that myself and Colin actually talked about with Sacred Symbols Plus when Bethesda was officially rolled in. And Colin suggested, like, if Xbox can get their ducks in a row with Bethesda and start rolling releases every quarter, they can start to dominate. So I think this might be a snapshot of what can potentially happen. So to sort of answer RP's question, you're like, could we see could we see Forza? Could we see Wolfenstein 3? There's definitely a strong chance of it, but I think what you're going to start to see is them sift these out, right? There are going to be games that could be ready, but what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing with Halo and Starfield is they might just spread the wealth, right? Because it keeps consistent excitement. It keeps the service relevant. It keeps current subscribers engaged. It brings in tons of new ones. We've seen Game Pass grow 30-something% when they did Outriders and MLB The Show, and those are good gets, but those are not the level of gets that we're talking about here with some of your major IP. So just a little report there. Nothing crazy new, but figured it was worth tossing out there. Ryan Goldner's our last Starfield/Bethesda-focused question, and then we will move on into the rest of the news. Just like I said, I wanted to have a nice, meaty discussion about this because it really was like the big talk of the town. Hey, Dukes, with Starfield going the exclusive route, how does this impact future big IPs from Bethesda, a.k.a. Fallout/Elder Scrolls? With Starfield being new, it makes it less of an issue than these, which have been long-rooted multi-platform titles. Thanks for all you do. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Ryan. This is what I said in my videos. I was very surprised that this whole Starfield thing was news because I feel like the news is going to really be when Fallout and Elder Scrolls are. Because personally, I am still wary of that, right? I don't know, pardon me, what exactly they're going to do with those two franchises. I think they're going to lock them down. I believe they're going to lock them down. But I do think it's a different case between new IP where we don't have expectations and established franchises. Then again, Fallout was originally PC only, then it moved multi-plat. They've had so many developers work on it, from Black Isle to Obsidian to Bethesda. I mean, there's been so many changes with it. What's another big change for it? But what do you think this impact will be on those particular franchises, as well as other companies underneath Bethesda, a new Dishonored game, a new game from Tango, and so on and so forth, id. What do you think is going to happen with those now that we're talking Starfield exclusivity?
Same I've always said. I think they're almost all exclusive.
Right on.
I don't think there's... I certainly believe Fallout will be exclusive. And the reason why is it's farther out. But like Elder Scrolls, well, it could be farther out. That one's up in the air. But for whatever reason, that's the one where I could see them going multi. But going multi. But Elder Scrolls, man, I mean, I personally think that Elder Scrolls Multiplat is ESO, and Elder Scrolls single player is exclusive, and just Microsoft. I'll just stick with that for right now. That's so far out, though. Jesus, these companies could be out of business by that point. I mean, dude, how long do we think Elder Scrolls? 2023? In fact,
24,
I would say of 24. I would say of all the games, you know, when I was talking about that person saying games are out on another console, which I don't believe, by the way, but the 2023-24 for Elder Scrolls, I do believe, because they're not working on that as they are Starfield. Like, it's not even in the same... Starfield's the thing right now. It's going to take, you know, multiple years, even different groups within, you know, there's a lot going on. Those are all huge games. Yep. So...
Well, it's just interesting because this was popping up, and I think it's relevant for talking about, but it's not like relevant in our news, so to say, as a listed item. Xbox's Ben Decker recently told Games Radar, quote, "We have 23 studios across Xbox and Bethesda working on Halo, Forza, Fallout, and new IP that we haven't talked about yet that's going to blow your mind," end quote. And I just thought that was interesting because why would they specify Fallout?
Yeah, true.
You know, right? Like, I mean, of course, the 76 would
just
get
be
updates.
Saying it, but I agree with you.
It brings in that question that could be coming as soon, potentially, if there's another, you know, studio working on it. We've talked about the potential of like a Fallout dedicated studio, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Like I said,
I just haven't heard a word about it. So if they did Fallout Studio today, let's say, you would still be 3 years out for the game.
Yep.
Is sort of how I'm doing the math.
I hope they do that. I think that was like your golden idea.
Yeah.
I would love to see them do that. Just a Fallout team. Because
I need to run their PR. It would be so amazing if
they have all the minds to produce the game, right? They just like, hey, do we do this? Do we do that? And you can just tap Brian Fargo on the shoulder, Leonard Boyarsky, Tim Kaine, and so on and so forth. Todd Howard.
Here's another question for you,
crazy.
Though. So you got your Fallout, which I think we would love to see that. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, after replaying this game, which I know you said something about you had heard people soured on it. I don't really track that as much, so I didn't see it, but I can see why people might say this. I would fucking kill for, like, a Outer Worlds 2 done by a Star team as well.
We're going to be talking about that today.
I know Starfield is, I think people might think Starfield is like the direct competitor, and I would agree. I would say Starfield is very direct competitor versus even a lot of other games, but I still, man, I really dig the world of Outer Worlds, man, or the world.
It felt like a modern, in terms of its design, it felt like a modern KOTOR to me. It really did. Yep. It did. It just the planet to planet, the hub based quests, the progression, the choices, dialogue, it felt like it, man. It's a great game.
Dude, they even
we'll
have
actually
powers,
be talking about that
by the
soon.
way, Maddie.
I'm excited about it.
Sorry, I was just going to say they even have powers like Mass Effect, where you like hold the right bumper and you tell the guy to go overshot. The exact same thing happens in Outer Worlds, where you hold the right bumper and you're like, go do your special move. Like, it's just the fucking, they all overlap. And I just really think Outer Worlds deserves exploration, which is a weird play on words. But I believe I want it to get explored at least one more time. Sorry, continue.
I agree. I think it will. I'm pretty confident.
My excitement just got a hold of me.
No, it's totally fine. We'll actually be returning that in two subjects. Number 2, the first day one Game Pass release of the summer has been revealed on the Xbox Wire. The game, Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance. Unlike Outriders and MLB The Show, this will be a day one drop across all platforms. That means cloud, PC, console, Xbox One, Series X, doesn't matter. It's all over. The third-person action brawler is set to arrive June 22nd, features up to 4-player online co-op and crossplay, so it won't be difficult to find a party. Dark Alliance retails for $40, so feel free to do something wise with that potentially newfound cash, such as not spending it on garbage Wendy's. Anyway, Zach Wharf writes in, hey, I want to go ahead and get your hot take on Dark Alliance being a day one drop on Game Pass. And what are our thoughts around the game before its release and what we know so far?
I'm supposed to be covering it. I've talked to their PR. They actually contacted me on this one, probably because I do a RPG podcast as well. But I'm really excited for it. Not in the same way you are, because I know you're an old fan of the what are they called? The Forgotten Realms,
Dark Alliance, yeah.
Dark Alliance.
Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, I should say.
Where I certainly love those, but I'm even older fan of Gauntlet, which is like what was pre those. I'm just a fan of all these, so to me, it's very exciting. Just overall, very exciting, and I'm excited to see it on cloud because I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't think that game needs split-second fucking timing. So the idea, if it's everything, dude, that's awesome to me.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this game does with people, because for me growing up, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance was so important, and this game doesn't really look like that. It's more over the shoulder, whereas Baldur's Gate was overhead, isometric style camera. That game just got a re-release, which I'm reviewing on my channel this week for those who want to check it out. But anyway, the game was great, but it definitely felt dated. So I'm curious how Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, it's pretty much a spiritual successor to it because they're both in the D&D universe. This one's Icewind Dale, which is curious indeed. But
and my
for me, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, really?
Icewind Dale? Oh, dude, more than Baldur's Gate. Icewind Dale, the games 1 and 2, my favorite locations. Like,
nice.
That all makes me very happy. They're a little bit more self-contained than, Baldur's Gate's a little bit more sprawling. So, yeah, I'm very excited for it.
As we get into what's going on with Game Pass and stuff, this, by the way, I'm not getting greedy when I say this, but you can tell they're doing some softer announcements. You can tell it's E3 time. They're keeping their momentum by doing things, but let's be real, Dark Alliance isn't this heavy hitter, and we're kind of seeing these companies must be getting great deals, because to say like we're going to be free across all platforms on Game Pass that's a pretty big deal. That's the first time we're seeing that, where it's a day one, their PC, console, cloud, like everywhere. There's unless you are a PlayStation fan, there is literally no reason to go buy this game. So I'm going to be very curious to see how this tracks, because it did not get the same traction as Outriders, which was a big deal because it was like a first-time thing, or MLB The Show, which was sort of a kick. This is more here's a day one get for us. So I'm going to be very interested to see how this one does. And they're doing, I read the Xbox Wire post, they're doing streams every Friday, so they're trying to market this thing. But as a Dark Alliance fan growing up, I wasn't super head over heels with what I saw. But that was just a quick glance at some trailers. So maybe it's better in motion. Maybe it's better when I get my hands on it. But still, good day one get. You can at least download it, try it out. If what you see is something you tend to enjoy. And plus, online co-op definitely changes some of that, makes things as enjoyable as it could potentially be. Number 3, news on the Ascent. Press was able to go hands-on with the game. I personally didn't read any of that because I'm just excited to play it, and the impressions are very much positive from what I'm seeing in quick tweets and snippets. Also, we finally have a release date. The game is set to arrive on Xbox and PC on July 29th and will be available day one on Game Pass. I don't have much to say on this one. I've talked about the Ascent a lot, very much anticipating its release in a couple of months. Do you have anything you want to add on to this?
No. We might be getting to the point to where Game Pass, we'll have to see. I think we might be getting to diminishing returns on the pop that games get. They PR wise on Game Pass, but they still get game wise by players. You were mentioning, and I wanted to bring it up, you were mentioning Dark Alliance. They're marketing it, all this stuff, but there wasn't as much news. I think that's absolutely true. I think also Dark Alliance doesn't have as much to show yet. Outriders was already showing fucking just all kinds of shit. Here's 55 minutes of this one fucking character, or whatever. Yeah. And those could also be connected where maybe they don't think they need to. Maybe they don't think that they need to, extend Dark Alliance in that way and because of Game Pass, which I think if we start seeing companies not do as much with Game Pass announcements, that's going to be sad because it does feel to me that Dark Alliance is this way. Ascent looks fantastic. We're not hearing a lot about it. So I don't know. It says like July 29th, and then Dark Alliance is coming out nearby or near that release time frame as well. So those two are both coming out at the same time. And I'm just hoping that companies don't rest on their laurels for these releases if they are going to Game Pass. And I think also pay-wise, you know, a gambler will usually go, what are the odds? 10 to 1. Okay, so I'm going to bet 9 times. If I win even once, I've made my money. If I win it, and by the way, it's called gambling, not winning. So this is not a good plan. But I'm wondering if some of these releases, they just don't say, okay, Dark Alliance, how many do you think you'll sell? And the company will have their own ideas of what they'll sell, looking at pre-orders and all that stuff. And then maybe Microsoft is like, well, we'll guarantee 3/4 of that amount or something. If you just, and then of course you've got your long entail because it's a multiplayer game. And we've seen it. Descenders, you talk about it like all the time. Like all these multiplayer games seem to pay off every time. So what I was saying when you were gone is I just hope we're not getting this pop, but I'm hoping it's not a slight, like less of a return on investment as Game Pass just becomes expected. Because if we start getting the kid at Christmas gets the nice present, you have a bad year, that kid gets a fucking paper bag filled of shit, and they're going to be bitching on that Christmas morning. It's like, when is somebody going to be like, what do you mean? We only get Fallout 5. And you're like, are we really there? Is that where we are now?
Yeah, the entitlement can get pretty...
The entitlement can get quick. So I'll be keeping an eye on that part of it, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think E3 will be a good test ground. I imagine they're going to have a day one kind of Game Pass announcement there. Maybe they'll do it in the softer way, I think, which doesn't hit as hard, going, all of these games will be available on Game Pass that we're announcing. It's like, you kind of forget about that because you get wrapped up in the moment, and it's sort of an aftermath thing. I'm wondering if they're going to have like a punchy kind of Game Pass announcement. We will see. Number 4, like I said, we're going to talk about The Outer Worlds. A surprise update on The Outer Worlds. Derek Strickland of Tweaktown, who serves as their PR and gaming editor, posted a reply he had received from Private Division on the future of the newfound RPG series. Private Division was the publisher of the original The Last of Us. Wow. You can show where my head's at. The Outer Worlds. Quote, moving forward, Obsidian and Microsoft will be publishing future iterations in the franchise, and we're absolutely thrilled to see where they take it, end quote. This doesn't confirm a sequel, but shows that the publisher, Private Division, is no longer in the picture. Thought it was a cool little pickup there. Nothing huge, but now it's all Xboxes, because that's been the question for many an IP that Xbox ends up owning. Is there was previous hands on deck. This could be sort of a good look at what to expect for other companies.
What's the mime-looking one that wasn't very good?
The drug. We Happy Few?
Yeah, We Happy Few. I wonder if that one moved. Do you know?
As in, it's probably just Compulsion Games and Microsoft instead of Gearbox being involved?
I haven't heard.
That's what I'm saying. I feel that's a perfect example. I feel like that's sort of setting the standard of potentially what's happening with all these other IP. I think they're now just owned by Xbox, especially in the case of We Happy Few. I don't know if that did really well, right? Like, I don't think it did crazy well. So
got a question for you.
It's unfortunate, but
did it do Game Pass? No.
We Happy Few?
Not day one, right? That wasn't Game Pass day one, was it?
No.
What if that had been? I do believe we might be seeing a sequel for that, because I feel that We Happy Few had some stuff that people may have liked, but the idea of spending into what we got, not so much. There were some issues. Procedural generation sometimes didn't look the best, but it had a unique shit going on. I mean, the story was actually had some very, I mean, it was certainly better than Days Gone's story. So it's like, maybe We Happy Few tries one more time. Because
I would love for them to do that, by the way, especially with funding.
So
I think
it's an interesting world, man.
I think they took the procedural generation route because they didn't have a big budget, but they wanted to make a very particular style of game. And so I look at that and go, well, Microsoft gives them the money and see what happens, man. Like, that would be awesome to see. That Microsoft literally has the chance to have a exclusive BioShock game if they just
doing We Happy Few number 2.
I mean, dude, that's the thing, right? There's some overlap there.
Yep.
Compulsion is underrated. I'm very curious to see what they're doing next. I don't know if it'll be at E3, but I'm very curious to see what they're doing next. I think We Happy Few was tremendously exciting for when it was announced. It caught a lot of people's attention. People just, there's something about BioShock style games that really grab people. They really do. 100%. It's that HUD, it's that art style, and it's that sort of utopia that people grab onto every time because it's enticing. It's like, how did this thing get fucked up? Conflict drives a plot, and especially when you see people popping pills and smiling like freaks, you gotta get involved.
Trotting through the fucking streets on
that
what was it called?
Man.
Happy Joy? No, it's called Joy.
Joy.
Walking through the streets, like there's some shit there that could be done that could go way beyond, like what we got to play, and additionally it had DLC. So there's some stuff there. It would be very fun to see.
There's some missions that were more handcrafted that were better. There was like a lab you could go into at one point. You had to like really sneak around, and it wasn't procedurally generated. Like those moments in the game were good. Like I remember playing. That was one of the most conflicting games I reviewed because you would have those times where you're like, I really like gameplay wise, not so much, but getting around the atmosphere, the level, and you could think in your head, like obviously you can't review a game on its potential, its intent, the possibilities. It's just what it is. But looking at it at times, you're like, man, this could be something really good one day. So I hope that they do continue to pursue it in a sequel. I don't know what they're doing next, but whatever it is, I'm going to be interested, I feel. Number 5, coming soon to Xbox Game Pass. This is a list of announcements. Some day one drops in here, so pay attention. SnowRunner, cloud, console, and PC available now. Peggle 2, cloud on May 20th. So some of these will be for the free listeners, available now. Plants vs. Zombies, Battle for Neighborville, cloud on May 20th. Secret Neighbor, PC, May 20th. The Catch, Carp and Corace Fishing, cloud, console, PC, May 20th. The Wild at Heart, console and PC, May 20th. This is an ID at Xbox launch, and it is day one. So try checking that one out. Knockout City, console, PC, May 21st. Day one launch as well. This is that dodgeball style game from EA Originals. Maneater, cloud, console, and PC, May 25th. Conan Exiles, cloud, console, May 27th. Fusion Frenzy on the cloud, May 27th. Joyride Turbo on the cloud, May 27th. MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries gets its console release on Game Pass, May 27th. Slime Rancher on PC Game Pass, May 27th. Celesta Crown of the Magister, PC release on May 27th. And last but not least, Spellforce 3 Soul Harvest on PC, May 27th. Alongside that, 7 more games have become cloud-enabled, so you can play them on your phones or whatever, tablets. Banjo-Tooie, Call of the Sea, Genesis Noir, Narita Boy, Nier Automata, Become as Gods Edition, Rain on Your Parade, and 2 Point Hospital. What do you make of what's to come for the rest of the month, Carrick?
Call of the Sea is cool for cloud. Yeah, Call of the Sea is pretty cool. And then I'm actually a huge Plants vs. Zombie fan, so like I love to just get in there and mess around with friends, so that's cool. SnowRunner is one of my favorite games, like legitimately one of my favorite games. I have a blast playing that. Maneater, not so much. MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is certainly worth checking out. I don't know what the console version's like versus the PC. PC had some issues, but it was also fun. I'm a huge fan of The Catch, probably because I grew up in a fucking fishing town, but like The Catch,
like Deadliest Catch,
though. All those. Yeah, if that's what I think it is, which because I haven't got a chance to look it up, but if that's a fishing game, I'll most likely end up playing it. Like if it's like on a boat, sea trawler, fishing trawler. I'm assuming that's what it is.
Carp and Course, sorry, by the way. I said the name wrong. I said Carp and Corace. Yeah, autocorrect got me, which is weird because it did it wrong.
But I like all those kind of games. Now. And then Secret Neighbor is pretty popular. I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, when I read the description of Secret Neighbor, it kind of reminded me of Among Us. Just the way it seemed like one person's the hidden neighbor. I don't know. I haven't seen it in action, but for me, the really standouts here, I want to try Slime Rancher. I know that's on console Game Pass, but I really want to try that out. That has like 10 out of 10 Steam reviews, and there's like 50,000 of them. So there's something that people really like about it. MechWarrior, I'm interested in. Wild at Heart, I'm interested in. I love to support the ID at Xbox team. I think they're doing some interesting stuff. That was like the ID at Xbox showcase was pretty ass. I really did like the games they showed. I thought nothing there looked bad, which is pretty rare. You usually get those kind of... Actually, there was one game. It was that one where... I got to call it out, I'm sorry. But there was that guy in the office, and he was just being awkward, and he was like having a meeting in like a studio room. Mm-hmm. Because he like swapped minds with someone. That game, oh my God, bro. I was like, this doesn't look like a game. Just go make a show. Knockout City, I'm going to try out if I have the time. And SnowRunner, you brought this up before it even was coming to Game Pass. What do you think of... So, what is this game? I don't know anything about it, but I know you like it a lot.
It's like Redneck's... Well, it's not Redneck's, but it's 4-buying game. But it is... you have to actually be very careful with your vehicle, and then you'll get jobs out. And it's about... The original was Mud Runner, which is one of the only Let's Plays I ever did, and I just laughed through the... It's the most... just ridiculous thing ever, but you basically get all these different vehicles in the Russian tundra, and you go out and you try to deliver things like wood, but it's insanely slow, like 5 miles an hour. But you have to like figure out what differential, if you're going to use the differential, how you're going to, attack a hill. And if you're a mud fan, I'm a 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler fan, motorbike. Like that's what I grew up doing. So to me, they're the jam, and SnowRunner is one of the most zen games I've ever played in my life. SnowRunner is like, if you want to get through a podcast, a drama podcast or supernatural podcast or ours, get SnowRunner, right here. Turn that shit on, and like 10 hours will go by. It was so funny because my Discord, I did the review, and people are like, I don't know if I'm a zen fan or whatever. And I'm like, no. And just, you can always, refund it, whatever. And I mean, dude, that's like one of the most popular games in my Discord ever. Like, people are just now playing it, actually, as I saw it this morning. People were like, holy shit, this game is amazing. It's just slowly trekking through the wilderness, but being held accountable for how you do it. And, yeah, it's awesome.
Dude, I love this, because when you looked it up, I'm like, or you mentioned that you did a Let's Play, I was like, really? I was like, I must have missed
One of the very few.
And I love the name of this video. Spin Tires, Mud Runner, Quick Look, or Preview, or Let's Play. Who knows? It's in the mud, though. And it got 63K views, and it's almost an hour long. That's
and it's
amazing.
Just me laughing. And it's got like 89% retention, which, by the way, is like twice what I normally get.
Amazing, yeah.
And, yeah, it's honestly me laughing at every moment, just and talking about the Outback and all these and the stories as a kid. And then all of a sudden... You're like hooking winches up and fucking crashing this thing, and I don't know how to describe it, man. It is one of those games where hours upon hours can go by, and you just be like, "What was I doing?" But it never is stressful, ever. It's more about just like figuring things out. The world itself is the puzzle. The ground, how much traction you're gonna get. It's just a weird game, but holy shit, it's good.
Yeah, the top rated comment is. LMAO, love that commentary, quote, so top heavy, like my first girlfriend, end quote.
Oh yeah, I had some one-liners in that one that people are like, what the fuck? But yeah, because you are delivering wood and it's in a big truck, and so like the top is flipping back and forth, and yeah, there's some risque things said.
I love that. Anyway. I love that. I kind of want to check that out. Number 6. Tencent's TiMi Studios, I'm not sure if that's their name, but they're known for Call of Duty Mobile as well as Honor of Kings, and they've formed a strategic partnership with Xbox Game Studios. Not much else is known at this moment in time outside of it focusing on new games, so Tencent money is now in Xbox Game Studios. Not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. When you got Microsoft at your back, you don't fucking need Tencent money. You don't need Chinese money. I don't fucking get this. You're fine. You got so much. Am I missing something here?
Well, I will say that the Call of Duty was so good mobile that, and I mean good, as in legit people were playing the Call of Duty on mobile versus the real one all the time. That's all I would hear is people are saying this Call of Duty on mobile is awesome, but also like what's the other one that started the big battle craze? The other open world battle game that people were playing on Twitch for almost a year. Shoot, I can't remember the name. PUBG? But anyway, PUBG, yes. So I think these games are becoming big, and what Microsoft may be doing is maybe leveraging their ability instead of like making their own, like leveraging their ability to get these good games and put them on their, cloud, mobile, all that kind of stuff. I don't really know. I didn't even know about this, but, it is just sort of a thing. I don't like it either because I just don't trust Tencent as a company, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't like the move. I got to stop saying, am I missing something? Because it opens up the door as if I am, but it's more so my term for
it's
confused by this, that why it, like, I feel like I have to be missing something when I know I'm not. But I digress. Carrick, that's all our news for this week. It's time for our Game Pass picks of the week. Shall you go first or shall I? Or maybe Anthony J. Sanchez, who has a write-in.
Oh, yeah, read his. What's he say?
Sure, let's do that. Hey, Maddie and Carrick, thank you both for Game Pass suggestions the past couple of months. Maddie recommended Octopath Traveler, which I adore, and Carrick recommended Donut County, which my daughter and I played all the way through. Both of these games were epic, and I can't wait to hear Game Pass picks of the week. Thank you, and have a garbage day. Thank you, Anthony. We hope you continue to enjoy, and let's go Octopath. A lot of people wrote in about Octopath when I suggested it. I'm glad those of you listen closely. It's a really good game. If you can... There's some old school stuff, and the story's not that great, but there's a lot to love about it, so... do consider trying it if you have yet to play it. I know Gaming Addict on the Lords of Gaming podcast.
Yeah.
He really liked it and finished it, which was awesome to see. Sorry, were you saying I should go first though for Game Pass?
No, I can go first. I had to look it up because I had a migraine prior to this, so that people know. I didn't feel well, so I didn't get a chance to look this up.
I also got you the script late, so it's on me.
I do. Yeah, that's fine. I do want to point something out. Void Bastards is leaving Game Pass. So I have mentioned Void Bastards prior, but I am going to point it out again just real quick. It's leaving Game Pass. I think it's maybe it's the end of this month. I can't remember. I just randomly saw some games leaving Game Pass. That's all right. And Void Bastard pop up out of all the games. I was actually in a little bit of a panic because I want to make sure people get a chance to test out that game on Game Pass. If you have not checked out Void Bastards, I'm telling you right now, it is so good. If you like those kind of games, obviously. If you're an RTS fan, well, what the fuck, it's not that type of game. But guys, check out Void Bastards. It's a fucking download. Just do it. It is just an amazing game. You're going to read these?
Sorry. There's just a couple more in there. Asceta Corsa is leaving.
Yeah.
That's cloud and console. Broforce is. Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5 Remix is leaving. 2.8 is leaving. Surviving Mars and Void Bastards. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. That was my bad. I went through the whole article. I just must have skimmed right past it. I apologize.
And I will say that, like, looking here, I wasn't, and you might have mentioned this prior, I was just looking at game, I didn't realize Resident Evil 7 was actually on Game Pass. So, you might have brought it up as a Game Pass game. For some reason, I feel like that might have happened, but I will say, if you haven't played that, definitely play it, especially if you liked 8, because I personally believe 7 is better. That's just me.
You know what's hilarious? Guess what my Game Pass pick of the week is?
What? Oh, it's
Resident Evil 7.
Well, there you go. There you go. It's perfect timing,
That's
guys. And I know people passed up on it. I know people passed it by. Check it out.
Yeah, I will admit I have not finished Resident Evil 8. Not because I am struggling with it or anything. I literally just haven't played it. I've been all in on Mass Effect, as I'm sure if any of you are paying attention to my channel, you've likely seen me streaming it, making videos on it. It's very rare a game comes out and the post-launch content worked as well as the pre-launch stuff. It's been really fun. Y'all know I like BioWare, even if they're not really what they once were. It's been nice to have a fun BioWare launch outside of the 2 controversial ones they've had previously. So yeah, I've just been all in on that game. Which means that Resident Evil 8 got put to the wayside. I got 4 hours deep. I'm at the end of the castle. I'm about to leave it, and I haven't picked it up since. I kind of wanted to stream the rest of that, too, on my channel. But anyway, playing that got me thinking about Resident Evil 7. And I will say Resident Evil 8 has been a good game so far, but I have not loved it as much as I have loved Resident Evil 7. And I know some people like the goofier stuff in 8. It seems like more of a return to form in what people view Resident Evil as. This mixture of crazy and creepy and kind of funny, almost supernatural in a way. And the reason I say almost is because I mention this all the time. Resident Evil 5 is my favorite, and you have Chris Redfield punching a boulder into the lava to get
which,
you around
by the way,
to get around the final level. It's
somebody
incredible.
gifted me that night, which is the
Really?
weirdest thing. And I don't mean gift as in gave it to me. They GIF, the GIF.
Oh.
You mentioned it, and there's no chance this person listened to it. You mentioned it, and I was talking about Resident Evil, and that was like, I might have said something like over the top. I know I wasn't talking about Resident Evil, and all of a sudden I get this GIF of a fucking dude punching a rock, and I'm like, that can't possibly be what meant. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and so Resident Evil 8 in a lot of ways just seems like a return to what people were familiar with, I think, while keeping that formula of what made 7 popular. But if you have not played 7, I have only replayed 5 a ton of times. I have not played 4. I love to remake. Like, I love a lot of Resident Evil games, but 7 is probably the one that I have really gone back to time in, time out. It is consistently good. It's creepy. It's claustrophobic. Just because you're in this little house, and it does what I think Resident Evil has always done well, where you have this elaborate layout that isn't confusing, but it also makes sense in the context of the world space. So I think one thing that 8 does really well, for those who have played it, you'll know there's the castle. And the castle, it makes sense why you have like the chambers beneath and you have these secret passageways. It's a castle, right? It's this medieval fucking place. Like, it's going to have these weird nooks and crannies. Whereas 7, you're in this house and you have the cellar underneath and it connects to like a barn outside and then like a greenhouse. Like, there's so much there that makes sense and allows it to establish itself and become believable, even if there's so much crazy stuff happening around you. When you combine that with just really well-balanced survival horror action where every bullet counts, the Madhouse difficulty where they put, if you're familiar with the game, you've already played it. If you go back, there are things in different areas, puzzles go in a different order. They completely change how the game plays, so it makes it even more fun to go back. And while for some people they'll say, oh, it's not really a Resident Evil game until the end, I think that's story-wise. I think otherwise it is a Resident Evil title in a lot of ways. I will defend it on that much. Maybe not as strongly as the rest, but I think it is in many ways. So if you have yet to play this, go ahead and download it, especially if you're missing out on 8 and you've never played 7. 7 might convince you to try 8. It is that good. I really like it. Carrick and I... It's crazy because when did that come out? Was that 2017 or 18?
Yeah, it was 17, I believe. Yeah,
it was the beginning of 17. It's wild
February,
to think about,
right?
man.
I think it was February.
I want to say
or something like that. It was a deader. It's our normally dead month. I do know that much, and it was like a weird release time frame. It's a good game
because we kept talking about it since Capcom was saying it underperformed or it didn't meet expectations. And me and Carrick were like, this is a fucking good game. Go buy it.
And it sold insanely well, which is like, what the fuck are they even talking about?
Yeah, their expectations were just really high is what happened. For those who don't know, it was clear as day. They put like probably 15 million sales there, and they got like 9 million or 8 million. And they're like, this is not meeting expectations. It's like, technically it's not, but I'm sure you're not complaining about the performance either. But anyway, that's my Game Pass pick of the week. Really like Resident Evil 7.
In the horror vein, the backwards compatible for me is Condemned. I was just looking, didn't realize this was on backwards compatible. So this is like Xbox 360, almost, it might have been close to launch or launch. Well, it was for sure close to launch. Can't remember if this was launch or not. But it was a first-person, like, horror game involving mannequins, a murderer, like a serial killer, and you beating people up with fucking pipes. It was a little bit like, what's the other one? Not Days, what's the fucking Evil Within? Right? Yeah, Evil Within. It was a little bit like Evil Within, and I really liked this originally on the Xbox 360, and I actually just now saw that it was on the list, so I own it. So I'm actually going to end up booting it up, because I'm sort of in a horror mood. I definitely since Resident Evil 8 came out. It's a very good game, and it'll be interesting to see how that sort of holds up. But, dude, this was a pretty scary game. I mean, in the original sense of, like, what you could do with a 360 and a PS3. It was, and first person, which is a little bit harder. There's a lot of light, having to control light, look around in these dark areas and stuff like that, and stay safe. So I'm actually excited to play that. I don't know if 2 is. I'll have to see if 2 is backwards compatible. But 1 is for sure.
Good pick. I've never played that, but that's interesting. My backwards compatible pick of the week is a really interesting one, and I'll explain myself in just a moment. But kind of staying in line with these, my Game Pass pick of the week was synchronized with a pretty relevant title now that maybe you missed out on. And what I'm inviting people to do is a bit of a thought experiment here. So my back compat pick of the week is Dragon Age Inquisition. This actually just got upped through FPS boost, so it's running at 60 FPS. And a lot of people
really?
are... Yes.
I apologize. Sorry.
No,
continue.
you're
I'm going to
good.
let my dogs out, but I didn't actually, for some reason, I missed that.
I was actually checking the FPS boost list, and that's when I came across it. I was like, you know what? Let's talk about this game. So, yeah, it got hit with an FPS boost, so I played it on PS4 just last year, and it was in 30, and not the prettiest experience, but what I want to invite people to do is visit Dragon Age Inquisition after playing Mass Effect if you're playing it for the first time, or if you've played it before. One thing I get a lot on my channel is, as a guy who covers a ton of RPGs, and I'm particularly passionate about BioWare, so I talk about them a lot, is how I like modern BioWare a little bit, but old BioWare is king, right? And so I'm talking about that era of about 2003 to 2011, 2012, I want to say. Whenever Mass Effect 3 came out. I think that was 2012. That was when they released Jade Empire, KOTOR, Dragon Age Origins, Mass Effect. They literally couldn't miss. Mass Effect 2. Dragon Age 2 is in the mix there. Some people don't like it. I made that one of my back compat picks of the week or Game Pass picks of the week, and I explained why I think that's worth a look if you're into the Dragon Age lore. The reason I'm inviting you to try Inquisition is because, number one, when I did go back to it, a lot of my audience was adamant about, hey, Maddie, Inquisition is better than you give it credit for. It's not amazing, but it's better than you give it credit for, because I was very much like, this game's bad. And I don't say that lightly. If you watch any of my reviews, my news videos, I often don't talk about games just being bad, because I think it goes beyond that, right? I think that's kind of a lazy explanation. So, Inquisition, I go back, I play. I have a 2020 review if you want to check it out. And it's more thorough than what I can give you here. But the main story for Inquisition is good. And I concede that. I was wrong about that. With that in mind, the reason I'm inviting people to go back to this game is less because of, hey, come play a pretty good game. And I understand time is valuable, but if you are able to, and you kind of want to participate in a thought experiment, if you will, I say if you're playing Mass Effect right now, fire up Inquisition at some point and see the transformation. See how things have changed, gameplay design-wise, see how they've changed writing-wise, how they handle their characters. It's a huge difference. It is a very, very big difference. And for some people, it was for the better. They like that BioWare has gone to this more broad approach, making their games bigger. I have been a fan of what they did with Mass Effect, which is what you see on display. 20 to 30 hour replayable titles with lots of choices and personality, where I feel Inquisition has the DNA of that in certain areas, mostly in its main story sections, but its side content, its filler content really falters. They went the action route. It's got a lot of interesting chops to it. So what I'm inviting you is really not to try this game out of, hey, please play this, you'll like it. You might actually end up enjoying it, like I found a way to enjoy it. But more is to see the transformation of this company, because I think it's easy to dismiss them and go, oh, Anthem, LOL, and just let it be that. But I think there's more behind it, where you can see their transition, and between Mass Effect Legendary Edition and this, you can sort of see what I'm talking about, because for a lot of people, Inquisition was the last highly reviewed BioWare game. Andromeda did not review well. Of course, Anthem did not really review that well. So Inquisition was the last time they came onto a stage. They took awards for a game. It was very popular. So see what's happened with them. The rest kind of speaks for itself, but I just wanted to invite people into that little thought experiment. All right. Now, an announcement. Oh, sorry.
I got a question. So Cardigan Wallet, he's a subscriber of mine. He doesn't do, well, he does the free LSM. But he was asking a question that I thought might be interesting just for a second, especially because it's about Saren, or it's about Mass Effect, I would say, driven by Mass Effect. He was saying, what's the best antagonist, main bad guy antagonist that we've seen in a game, but we can't answer with KOTOR.
I can't say
like,
the name,
Revan.
but I can't say the name, but Persona 5 Royal, 100%.
Okay.
Very humanized antagonist.
It's funny because I did the 2-hour video for the patrons, or hour and a half or whatever, for Mass Effect 1, and you know, as I return to it, because I haven't played it in a while, I honestly might, if you play all the DLC, which some people didn't, of Mass Effect, and you sort of understand where Saren's coming from, I'm having a hard time, other than KOTOR, because I do like some of those guys. And Jade Empire, well, Jade Empire, now that I think about it, probably takes the fucking cake. But without, I can't, you're the same way, I don't want to spoil it.
Bring that up.
Yeah, so, but that is definitely cool. But, dude, Saren, when you find out all the shit that's happened, what he was like, and it's not the typical, oh, he was a good guy. Not at all. But there was a lot going on with Saren that you only find out in the DLC if you played the DLC and if you pick up audiobooks, which I know a lot of us don't like. But, man, I gotta say, I go into Mass Effect 2, and I know you're playing these for stream, but I gotta say, man, and I get it. People like the shooting, but boy, fuck. Those bad guys just aren't as good, man. I don't know. I mean, I get why people like the collectors, but to me, they're just mini versions of Sovereign because they have a bassy voice and they're like taking control. It's like Megatron turning into Galvatron. And I'm like, dude, it's still a Tron. It's still the same fucking dude.
I really just think it's because the driving force of 2 is its characters and its loyalty missions, which ends up being a pretty pivotal thing in the final run. And I think because all the chips are on the table for that, it's why people are so big on it, that a lot of stuff gets pushed to the wayside. I've been playing Mass Effect 1 on Legendary, or on what's the difficulty? Insanity. And it has been fucking amazing, man. It has been so much fun. It reminds me of how I felt about New Vegas on hardcore. I'm like, this almost feels like the best way to play it. I'm more tactical. I'm more engaged on the combat level of things. I'm taking cover. I'm commanding my squad. Like, I would not be doing this on normal. I just wouldn't be. And because of the tweaks they've made, they've rebalanced a lot of things. It's really it's much more fair. It's more fun. I tip my cap to BioWare. They did a really good job tweaking the experience of Mass Effect 1 without it losing its heart. I think the visuals have been hit or miss for some people. There's less film grain. The eyes are a little funny. They've fixed some of that in the patch, so it's not as egregious, but I think there's still some work to be done there. There are some new issues, but yeah, with the role-playing side of things, you just I think there's a newfound appreciation. I said this before launch. There's going to be a newfound appreciation for Mass Effect 1 with this relaunch for sure.
Yeah, I just really think Saren's fucking, like, once I started seeing, because at first you're like, man, he's just offing people. Why would that matter? He's sort of and then the more, yeah, there's just some really, and then when you get to a certain part where, like, a character has been with him, but you fight them and some stuff happens, and I was like, once I've played this tons of times, but
yeah,
there's definitely an appreciation for Saren as a bad guy. So that was it. It was just a question, and I told them that I would ask us, or that we would.
I also think it's because in Mass Effect 2 and 3, you're almost chasing a group, where in 1 is the only entry in that series you're going after an individual.
If you're like a theft movie guy, Ocean's 10 was like the first one, and it was missing stuff, and then Ocean's 11 or 10 and 11, I can't remember, 11 and 12. I don't remember how they named them. Were more. Yeah, about like they sort of went group against group, which is certainly what 2 and 3 do. Which is definitely, instead of one guy, it's like group against group. Just so you know, the Ocean's movies are those ones with like Brad Pitt and Clooney who do the bank heists, and they get every actor.
I actually am familiar with that. Yeah.
So it's like Fast and Furious, but the bank heist version. You know, where it's just a bunch of actors.
Wasn't there a movie called what was it, like the Italian Job, or what am I thinking of?
A terrible movie.
It is? Okay. That's what I'm thinking of.
The original was good, but the remake was like the guy Wahlberg from Transformers, and it just was, it was him. It wasn't very good.
I remember being excited for that as a kid, but this shows my prowess for movies. This is the one time if someone said, Maddie, stick to games when I'm talking about movies, I would totally get it, right? I would not argue them, right? If they were like standing in your lane, I'd be like, yeah, I will, actually. Anime, one thing, but movies, I don't know about that. All right, so quick announcement. I probably should say this at the top of the show. We'll repeat it next week in case anyone asks. But PC Deals of the Week, it's been officially removed. The audience was vocal on this. We appreciate all of you writing in about this. It shows how deep you get into our shows, because that was around the 2-hour mark, and a lot of the write-ins and the Patreon comments, YouTube comments were there about the future of this segment. And a lot of you were just like, we don't really, it's not bad, just we don't really care about it. And really the thing is that most who were in favor of it were like, it's not long, so I don't really mind that it's there. And it's like, we want you to want it, right? There's value in Game Pass Pick of the Week, Backwards and Pat Pick of the Week. So we're going to pull this out. I don't want to just have it be like, now we have this little slot in our show that's open that we're going to look to fill. If there's an idea we have that the audience suggests or whatever, we're open to that. But of course, the show ends up going on 2.5 hours, almost 3 anytime. We just can't help it. So we're listening to segment suggestions, but it may just remain as is for the time being. I think we have a pretty strong framework for our show. So thank you for your feedback. We appreciate that. And now we get into our 5 final questions for the show. Starting off with Chris. Hey, fellas. With Mass Effect Legendary Edition out now, how long do you predict it will take before this game is available on Game Pass? I assume it will be since it's made by EA, right? I definitely want to replay the games, but I'm not in any rush. So if it's free in a few months, I'll sit tight and save some coin. Keep up the good work, guys. Have a very basic day. Thank you, Chris. You too. I don't know about this one. It's really weird because you see EA doing like Knockout City as a day one Game Pass thing, and I think it's because there's no buzz. Mass Effect is going to sell a lot. I think this is a staggered Game Pass release, like sometime in the fall, maybe.
Sometime in the fall.
I don't think you're going to get it soon. So if you're sitting on it to save some money, you might be sitting for a while. I think they'll eventually do it, though. That's my guess. Anything you want to add?
No, I actually agreed. I actually think fall.
I want to make sure if there's anything else there before I move on.
Yep. Fall for sure.
All right, cool. Same. Paul Meekin's up next. Hi, friends. What's the oldest game you've played for the first time that you found yourself loving? I'm currently playing Resident Evil 4 on Xbox, and I find myself charmed and enthralled by its challenging controls, combat, story, and most importantly, gameplay. I'd heard this was one of the best games of all time. Turns out, folks are right. It's almost 2 decades old. Instead of feeling dated, it feels vintage and arguably timeless. If you haven't played it, you should. Just watch out for that first level. It's a doozy. Have y'all picked up an old Xbox or PC game that was over a decade old recently and found yourself enraptured? And perhaps, more interestingly, what do you consider to be a timeless Xbox game that not only stands the test of time, but defies it? I love this question. I love going back in time and playing some of these old gems. So has there been a game that you've played for the first time that was older nowadays or recently that you were like, man, I missed out and this is amazing? Has that ever occurred with you?
No, just because I probably didn't have the time, and then once I got into it, if it did happen prior to reviewing, I don't remember it. I usually knew what was coming out and then jumped on it, but I don't think I've ever like looked at a game and said, I want to jump into this now, but I'm going to wait. If I really want to jump into it, I probably do, and then if I don't, probably don't get a chance to. Yeah, I can't think. I guess with the PS2, there was an emulator that came out, and one of the Final Fantasies I played. Well, no, because that was an emulator, so I can't really say it was an exact example of the game. So yeah, I would say probably not for me on this one.
For me, 100% Lost Odyssey. Not to repeat myself, but I just played this for the first time last September. Yeah, first time I ever played it last September, and that came out. No, you're good. For those who don't know, that came out December of 2007.
Yeah.
And so I played it for the first time, late last year, September, and I loved it. I thought that game was amazing. It's literally a Final Fantasy game exclusive to Xbox, but it's beautiful. It's got an amazing soundtrack. It's by Nobuo Uematsu, who did all the Final Fantasy soundtracks. I butchered his first name, Nobuo, sorry. But yeah, just everything about it screams Final Fantasy. It's got a really good story. It's got the 1,000 Years of Dreams, where you can kind of get a glimpse into the Eternals' viewpoint of living for thousands of years on this planet and what that's like. Just a lot to adore about this game. A lot of secrets in the game to discover. And for me, yeah, it was one of those moments where it felt like a current release. I've said that for a while now, so I will keep this short just to not sound repetitive, but I always kind of preach about Lost Odyssey. It's because I had Paul's experience. I played it for the first time and went, this feels fucking timeless. Like, this is amazing. There wasn't any grinding that was really required. It was relatively well balanced. The skill system where you would connect, like, you would have mortals and immortals in your party, and so you would connect as an immortal with a mortal and learn their skills, and that would make the immortals better. So you'd have to, like, really have this. You could have your own customized party dynamic. There were certain archetypes that were good for boss fights in particular, but I mean, just a really fantastic game. So I would say that's my answer, Paul. Great write-in. Sean Mason's up next. Hey, Dookies. Unfortunately, my fiance broke her femur this past weekend in a biking accident. Jesus, I am sorry to hear that. But it seems I'm more depressed about it than she is. She is bragging to me about how she is able to catch up on her backlog. I love this. This is great. She made a spreadsheet of all the games on Game Pass she is determined to complete during her recovery. I kid. She is really sad about it, but she is looking on the bright side of things, and that's great to hear. So my question is, what is a time in your life where something negative happened to you, but you were able to spin it into something positive? Best, Sean M. Sean, our teacher friend, always asking the deep questions or writing in on ham radio about his students, you know? Love a Sean Mason write-in. Has there been a time that you know, like maybe game-related, that something negative's happened to you and you made it into a positive?
Yeah, but first I want to say congrats for her, like, not losing her mind, because have you ever heard a femur break? It's like a shotgun.
It's one of the strongest bones.
Dude, it's unrealistic. I heard a femur break in martial arts class one time, and we thought we were being shot at. It's ungodly. It's ungodly.
Oh,
it's
I like
it's
played the sound in my head after you said that. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's insane. So I'm glad she's on the mend, because it's also like that horrendously painful. So I'm actually glad she's able to play games, because I think a lot of people, when you're in pain, it's hard to concentrate. So It's very cool she's going to jump in. I mean, I got laid off, and that's how I did YouTube, but that's sort of the generic answer, I would say. I mean, negative stuff is, I would say breakups. I've had multiple. You're talking about being 27. I've had multiple fiancés. They didn't work out, and this one did. So you can call that a negative, turn it into a positive. But I mean,
this one did.
This one worked out.
Hey, wifey, fist bump. Let's go.
Hey, this
Appreciate
one finally worked out. Good job. I don't know, man. I don't think of them. I think of them as negative when they happen, for sure, like anybody. But I don't remember them too much. I do remember those, because those are, you don't want that to happen. I definitely remember those and learning from them. But I would say getting laid off. But like I said, that's sort of a cheap answer. I don't really.
I don't think they're cheap or bad answers. I think it's just that there's a common overlap. Like, you kind of you go through your period of grief, and then everyone triggers at different times to get the hell over it, and some sooner than others, and especially with experience, some way sooner than others. For me, something negative that happened, I'm the same way, right? Like, it's the same thing with dates. I mean, I love my grandma to death. I would visit her house like almost every single day, but I don't strongly recall the day exactly. I know the month, but I don't know the day exactly that she passed. My parents do. My brother remembers, but I'm just not oriented that way. Like, I don't sit there and hang on like, this is the day it happened.
Right.
I didn't know. And sometimes that sucks, because like in that particular instance, when my parents reminded me like that weekend, like, hey, this is the weekend that, Mimi passed. It was like I had a heavy heart that weekend, because then and it's not even self-defense. It's just like, I don't operate that way. Because I know you got to eventually move on. Nothing will ever replace the hole in my heart that my Mimi left. But I know more than anything, she'd want me to live my life. Right. So, it's hard for me to really answer this with something other than like, kind of what Carrick said. I remember for me, a negative was I wouldn't even call it a negative. It was more that I was not super passionate about my studies, and it was really positive that this turned out the way it did, where I'm able to sit here and talk about the things I love. And not only that, but not get into such a privileged, shitty position like some people in our industry do, that I continuously recognize it. that I haven't lost my head with it and was able to just keep it on my shoulders and realize like this is a blessing. I think that is kind of the positive, if you will, to a negative industry otherwise, which just, I don't know, this doesn't think constantly. It feels like they're in their own chamber often. And so, yeah, that would be probably my answer. Kind of like Eric said, not the most original, but I think it's because all of us as humans go down similar paths. So it's only typical that we would, or only expected that we'd overlap. Edward Bustos is next. Hello, Mr. Matty 2.0 and Carrick. On one of the first episodes, you said that Microsoft is an American company and should focus on Western RPGs since that only makes sense. I've never been a fan of Western RPGs or Bethesda games in general, as I rather have a story, the English here is messed up. I'd rather have a story told to me than having to choose the outcome of the story. So with Xbox mostly making these style of games now, what game should I play that will make me really appreciate this genre? Gears is what brought me to Xbox and has kept me invested in the system. But with them taking a break, I'll need to play something else. This is just some history of what I've played. I'm about 5 hours into my first playthrough of Mass Effect with the remaster. I've also tried Fallout 4, and a giant bug died on the game camera, and that's all I could see. 5 minutes into the game, I just installed the game and moved on, and maybe 30 minutes into Skyrim. Thanks for any suggestions. A game that can get someone into Western RPGs.
I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know why we would say Microsoft needs to hold to Western. We may. I don't believe that was exactly what we said, because that doesn't seem. I mean,
I think it's their focus, right? Like they should.
I'm trying to think of why we would have said that. I guess we might have stated
probably
go third party instead of try to do a first party, which does make sense. Obviously,
it might have been because of Bethesda Game Studios and. In Exile and Obsidian, like they do have these prominent Western RPG developers where you look at PlayStation and they've got
that's
really
true.
Now that I think about it, on the third party end, you've got CD Projekt and you've got who else am I missing right now that could fall into a RPG developer? BioWare. Jeez, I almost forgot them. While Xbox owns most of the Playground Games is maybe turning into an RPG developer. So they have a lot of established Western talent, although I don't believe... Where is Playground Games located? Anyway, that doesn't matter. What games can we suggest?
Sorry, the puppies are getting at that point where you got to pull them apart.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. He actually stated, I'm pretty sure he's not going to like them, because if he's played some of these, like, I don't want to mention like an old one like Jade Empire and Inquisition. I don't exactly know what he's played in the Japanese style. That's the problem. Is he told us a Western, which, by the way, I want to thank him for telling us what he has played. So people ask a question, and you'll be like, well, what have you played? Unfortunately, in this particular instance, we actually need to know, like, the JRPGs you have played and liked, too, to see, like, if there's a dichotomy there. I don't really have a suggestion other than Greedfall, but I don't see a person liking... If they can't like the high end of, like, Mass Effect Remaster, which it's not stating that... He actually didn't state if he liked the remaster. He just said he's 5 hours into it.
Yeah, he said he's 5 hours in.
Yeah, Greedfall, Piranha Bytes has a couple, but they're that Euro jank. And then Witcher 3, which he doesn't mention. That's about it's pretty high level. He's already mentioned some pretty high level games. Dragon Age Inquisition, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, 30 minutes into Skyrim is pretty impressive. That's some dedication to not giving a fuck. I'll tell you what.
That's not even out past
that's
the
wiping
bear.
your hands of that. Yeah, I don't think you got out of the prison. That's insane to me.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine
that's
that.
hilarious.
Like, I heard the 1 hour rule is a thing. I understand Fallout 4, there's a bug. You're like, I'm not going to bother with this. But
for sure.
30 minutes in Skyrim?
30 minutes is the fucking ride, and then Michael Hogan fucking, ordering them to cut your head off. That's about it.
Yeah.
That
really is, especially if he spent like 10 minutes in the character creator. Wow. All right, I'll make a list just based off what we know and make a couple of assumptions here. Number one, I'm going to order you to go back into Skyrim. That 30 minutes is not enough. That's not even like it warms up later. That's not enough. That's 100% not enough time. Download Skyrim Special Edition, try it out for a couple hours, see if you can get wrapped into it. Because there are mods there too. So if you end up liking it, especially on the Xbox side of things, there's more options there than there are on PlayStation. You put 5 hours into Mass Effect, so there might be some BioWare love there. I'm going to recommend, of course, Dragon Age Inquisition, like I did earlier, because that's one of their newer games. It's a little more bloated, but there are a lot of people that really like this style of BioWare. They really, really like them. They're like addicted to them. So maybe you'll click with those kind of meatier games. But if you're like me and Carrick, you want something a little more concise, where the story is told to you, but you have some options. KOTOR 1 and 2. This is kind of no-brainer. Outer Worlds is another that's a great suggestion. Outer Worlds, yeah, you have some choices. They are there. You're not going to get into RPGs, because you said, I like when a story is told to me. They will tell the story to you, but you're going to have to interact with them, right? You're going to have to skill check occasionally. These are just picking dialogue options, essentially, in a glorified manner. You're going to have to do that. You're not going to just kick back with your feet up during a cutscene when you're playing an RPG, at least a good one. So just go in with that expectation, but try some of the BioWare games out, some of the Bethesda games out, and see what you think. Especially if you put 5 hours into Mass Effect, I'm going to imagine that might be scratching your or tickling your fancy a little bit. So get back to us with some JRPG stuff, and we'll guide you a little bit more. And once again, I'm going to emphasize the Outer Worlds. That was a great suggestion by Carrick. All right, last question of the show. It's an important one. Dan Morgan writes, I saw Carrick sipping a Diet Mountain Dew, so I must ask, best soda of all time. All-timer. That's a heavy question. I have an answer, though.
What's yours?
In 2009, okay, there was a competition for Whiteout. Oh my God, what were the flavors? I'm gonna have to look this up. There was a competition of 3 Mountain Dew flavors. One was Whiteout, one was Distortion, one was fucking Code Red.
Yeah, Code Red.
Distortion was one of the best sodas I've ever had. It was one of those sodas. They put some type of drug in it. You would slug these things down. It was like Mountain Dew on steroids, right? It was still a green Mountain Dew drink, but they did something with it where I slurped these suckers down. Somehow Code Red wins, right? Whiteout was pretty good, and it was new. Distortion was, I felt like, an innovative take on the traditional Mountain Dew flavor. Code Red somehow wins. I think people did it as a joke. That's how, I think terrible Code Red is. But Mountain Dew Distortion is a flavor that has stuck with me in my entire life. My friends and I still talk about it. We all loved it. It was like a cult thing. It was like a zeitgeist almost. Like it was just, this Mountain Dew Distortion hype in my group. When the parties were happening, these gaming parties, we'd have Distortion. Mom would come home from the grocery store, Distortion was there. This was the best soda I've ever had.
This was just a test, basically.
Once because during the summers they used to do these, I think it's how Baja Blast came around. They did 3 different flavors, and then one of them won, and they just took out the rest, and they just sold this new flavor constantly, and it was this big deal. But Distortion, I remember looking it up on eBay last year. I'm going to look it up now. People are selling cans of Distortion.
Yeah, I was going to ask $200 or something for a can of Distortion.
Yeah, I'll let you know in a sec. But I'm curious, as a soda connoisseur yourself, Mountain Dew Distortion. That's not even coming up on the search bar. Hold on, this is bad. Oh, there's 2 cans. Empty, sealed, and half full. So someone drank fucking half of it.
Whoa.
16-ounce Mountain Dew Johnson City Gold. No, there's just 2 cans of Distortion, man. There's 2 I kind of want to buy this. Dude, this guy broke out a fucking scale. Oh my God, there's a...
Oh, to show you how much is in there?
Yeah. There's a 0.5 ounce Mountain Dew Distortion can, and then there's a 5.3 ounce can. Dude, that's disgusting, though. Empty, sealed, so someone drank it, whatever, that's fine. And then a half full.
I don't know what the half full thing is.
Someone Dude, think about this. Someone cracked this can open, drank half of it, and went, I'm going to save this shit for a decade and try to sell it on eBay.
It probably will sell.
It might sell to me. Oh my God, I kind of want to put this on like a shelf. Yeah, it says try all 3 and vote at democracy.com. Choose the next do. Wow. What a trip. Carrick, take it away before I get carried away.
I do like Barks root beer. Barks has bite is the term, and it is really, really spicy. I like Squirt, which is like, I think we've talked about this before. I thought was fairly not well known, but I think some people had written in and stated that like they definitely liked it. I like citrus stuff. I mean, dude, I used to drink the shit out of like, Pepsi. Like it's not that big of a deal to me. But if I'm looking for like taste, it probably wouldn't be a diet drink anyway. Strangely enough, there are some really crazy energy drinks out there that, as long as they're not super heavy on a chemical taste, there's actually a couple I love, like really, really, really like. But for a pop / soda, probably Barks. Yeah, I can't drink it. I mean, I can, but something about root beer, man, that shit's the only thing in the world that makes my stomach like a little like rebel. It's almost like some people with dairy, where their stomach's like, okay, we've got a problem. Root beer, definitely Barks in particular, gives me a little bit of a stomach ache sometimes. I'll still drink it.
Have you heard of Mountain Dew Violet?
No. I've heard we have Ruby Red, but not Violet. I've never even heard of that.
It is a grape-flavored Mountain Dew can, only sold in Japan.
Yeah, see, I'm also, just like food, I'm not super picky. Or I won't go super out of my space. So like Mountain Dew I like, but if Mountain Dew Ruby Red, I tried probably on accident. But I wouldn't have gone, once I know I like something, I'll drink it or eat it until I just don't like it anymore, and then I move on. So, just...
Have you heard of Mountain Dew Major Melon?
Yes, Major Melon I have. Actually, I saw that on a order list a couple days ago when I was ordering food online. When I like Instacart.
$30 for a pack of 10 bottles.
Dude, do you ever do Instacart?
Yeah, my mom does.
So Instacart's awesome. Instacart, you can get normal, but I always thought of it as groceries, right? But you can go to Fred Meyer. Fred Meyer is a store, so you can also get fucking socks if you wanted. You can do Best Buy. Crazy. But today, I had a really weird experience. I order it, and the chick who's delivering it starts talking to me like normal. Like, not like about the food, but like, hey, what's up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's nothing. Do you have any questions?
Oh, you entertained it? I'd be like, not answering.
So, no, this isn't, then it gets crazy. She says, I'm going to shop, emoji lips, emoji zucchini dick, whatever that one emoji is, the penis. Is that cucumber, zucchini, fucking eggplant? Yeah, eggplant. I'm sorry.
Yeah, eggplant. Yeah.
Lips, eggplant. Yeah. So I'm thinking, BJ. Like, that's where my brain goes. I'm like, what in the fuck? And so she's just sort of talking, and I've got the website up, and I'm writing up something. She just starts emojiing a lot of this stuff. I start talking back to her, and I go, are you getting eggplants? I think I was being a smart ass or something. I was like, are you getting, because I couldn't understand what she was doing. And dude, I don't know how she did it. Wrong chat. It was a chat for a boyfriend. And she was like bouncing between mortified. And somehow bounced into the wrong one. And she said, I'm so sorry. My boyfriend just asked me why I kept asking him about about pizza, frozen pizza. And you just asked me why I sent you the zucchini. And it was risky.
Wow.
I mean, I was getting these emojis. And of course, I'm not, currently in today's day and age, people will be like, let's get her fired, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, fucking people make mistakes. It's funny. blow your shit somewhere else. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, and she stopped when I got my stuff. I was like, dude, that was all. I ended up talking to her for a while, but I was like, that was the craziest shit.
Oh, really? You had a conversation for her?
Oh, yeah, because I was like, she started laughing. She knocked on the door. I held the dogs back, and I'm like, here you go. And I did tell her. I was like, do not worry, because if it were me, I probably would have worried. I would have been like, oh, fuck, I'm fired. Like, so somebody's going to report me. And I was like, don't worry, that was funny as hell. Like, I was trying to figure out. She's like, I'm so sorry. But it was one of those moments where, people are using Instacart and all this stuff. I can't be the only one that's happened to, man. It's just impossible. No. There's so many home deliveries now that there's been some wrong. And they can send pictures. I don't know if they do that to you, but if they can't find my food, they'll send me a picture sometimes and say it's not here to sort of prove they did look. But it's like, if you can send me that picture, what's to say you couldn't accidentally send me a dick pic? Like, if you're a dude. Or, like, I'm wondering, I want to sort of find a Reddit
I would hope
that's,
that
like,
they're
accidental.
At least on iPhone, you have to press the photo app, and then you got to press the picture, and then you have to press send. I would hope that reaching for that delete key, it's pretty hard to hit send instead.
Dude,
I'm hoping
I don't know, man. She was sending me lips and a fucking zucchini or an eggplant, so it's like, I have no clue, man. I was one step away, because she sent me pictures, too, of frozen food, so it's like I was one step away from getting, like, a really cool afternoon.
Oh, no.
Like, a really positive afternoon. It's like Instagram, hey, man, this is, or not Instagram, but Instacart. It's like, hey, I get my food, and, oh, look at this, naked chickies. But, yeah, anyway, that's my story about it. People need to start using Instacart more, because I need to know if this happens more often. It was enjoyable. Dude, Instacart's
I can promise,
crazy,
as my mother is a frequent user, this has not occurred yet.
This is not
as a DoorDash user, I've had like people ring my phone up and say like, "Yo, where you at?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?
Yeah,
where?"
right?
Like what?
and
real casual.
They called you on accident, right?
No, they called me seriously. Like they're looking for my place, and they be like
Mm.
trying to drop off food. And they're like, "Yo, where you at, bro?" I'm just like, who is this?
Yeah,
again? Why are you looking for me?
I'd be like, dude.
He's like, I got your food from DoorDash. I'm like, oh, yeah, up here, man. Like,
Yeah, because if somebody randomly called me and had my phone number, which is already a step above anything else, I'd be like, dude, who are you? You're a stalker. Like, there's something, like, I'm not telling you where I live at all. You need to prove something. I actually had somebody do that with Days Gone. Multiple people contacted me about some tech issues, and somebody contacted me and they were like, hey, can I get your help, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to prove who you are. So I was like, I can't, I can't just this day and age, man, it's so easy. I get spam emails that pretend they're real. I don't know if you saw the Ubisoft ones. I'm getting those every week where they're completely fake. They look real as shit, and they're absolutely fake. And the only way to tell is by looking at the email address. So it's like,
I've been talking to some game developers, and a lot of what's happening now is there's like phishing occurring within game job offers. So they'll be like, full-time offer artist, and you'll sign up because it'll say it's from like ZeniMax, but you'll sign up and they actually just collect your data.
Oh man. Really?
It looks legit. I've seen them. It looks legit.
I'm telling you, the Ubisoft ones, I instantly looked at it and I'm like, there's no way this is the way I would get the code, but it's legit looking. Dude, it had everything, even like the proper Twitter of the person that would probably do it, but there was something about it where I'm like, there's no way they'd have me click this box. That's just not, Ubisoft does not do that. And I contacted them, and they're like, oh, man, no, that's not us. Thank you very much. And I was like, holy shit, there's so many people, I bet you. I don't know if you remember, Angry Joe lost his channel for like a day. Do you remember that? It was about 4 years ago. Somebody deleted his channel. YouTube recovered it, obviously. And he didn't really say exactly what, and that's proper. He shouldn't, because that way people can't learn what works. But it sounds like he clicked on something like that, where they figured out, like, whether it's a link on your thing that goes into Google. And once it goes into Google, man, if you've got certain settings set up, you're screwed. Like, if they get in through that, through your Google setting, which is YouTube, you could be fucked. Like, it's just a crazy time, man. It's a crazy time. Every time I wake up and look at my email, I have to assume most of it's fake and go, who is this? Reebok, by the way. I don't know if you've seen this one. I keep getting emails where they're like, we'd love to work with you at Reebok. It's all normal. And then you look right at the end, and it says, contact us on WhatsApp. And I'm like, nobody says that.
Nope.
Nobody says that.
It's always a little thing, but they're getting crafty.
They're getting crafty. So anybody out there who's trying to start a channel, man, if a big company contacts you and you're like, man, this is great, not to rain on your parade, you may want to ask around to people you trust and verify, because that it's one and done. If somebody gets your data, it's gone. So you're screwed from that point on. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was it. Those are my Instacart stories. The
Instacart
strange
stories
sexual stories of Instacart.
Yeah, right.
I dated a pizza delivery girl once, too. Did I tell you about that? Pizza delivery girl showed up. I was single at the time, and I ordered a pizza. she was pretty, so I was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Ended up dating her for a while, and she was the one who almost stabbed me. I'll have to tell you that offline. Yeah. So I'm just telling people, anybody who shows up at your door.
I didn't know the lore. Yeah. I remember her.
Yeah. Just I'm just saying, don't make stupid character decisions. If somebody shows up at your door to deliver food, just get the food.
Don't hit on them. Yeah.
Don't hit on them. Yeah. It was an interesting time. I'm lucky to be here now that I think about it. Hopefully you'll get through your 27, your 28, your 29 without
I'm very blessed. I met my my wonderful girlfriend when I did, because I have yet to be threatened to be stabbed by another woman. I've gone through breakups and like pretty shitty woman, but like I have it has not been so bad that they have threatened to stab me or anything like that. It's just been like, yeah, we don't really like each other anymore. It's nothing
that sucks,
as deep as a Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't know, because this is actually probably a good answer to Sean's question is like, well, yeah, I guess it sucked back then. There were some girls that I was dating that I was really into, and they would like fall out of it, and you're just like, oh, I feel like really, really shitty. But you meet the person that you really love, and it's like, well, that didn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. It's like getting a great job after having 2 or 3 bad ones, and you're like, I don't know if any of that. Have you ever heard that thing where it's like, would you go back in time and tell yourself anything? And I always sort of joke and say, other than the joke about like scary girlfriends or some dumb thing I did, I don't know if I would, because every weird decision like made me look up online a job that caused me to move cities, which that night at that exact time may not have occurred. So it's like, I'm not 100% sure it wouldn't have been terrible. Like I've even talked about that. I'm like, how terrible if I hadn't moved and then done this and then done this and then got laid off. Where would I be right now? You might just be in your same hometown, just living there with the other people in your same hometown, all being like, remember the glory days? Like a fucking Bruce Springsteen song, all talking about the times when you're in football. Like,
yeah, my friends and I used to joke because there was a stint when I was dating where I literally nothing worked out. Like it just nothing worked out. I would lose interest, someone would lose interest, or it would just something ridiculous would happen. And so my friends and I would joke, we're like Matt's cursed. Like I said at 21, I was like, I would be single for the rest of my life. Like that's probably what's happening. And so I started to make peace with that. And that's when I met my girlfriend. And I was like, okay, well, like, cause I remember right before I went on a date with my first girlfriend, I was talking to my buddy, we were going to hockey, and he was just like, so how do you feel about going on a date with her? I was like, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm officially done dating. So my expectations are in the right place. And it was fantastic. I had a really good time, and I fell in love with her. But before that, yeah, it was just a streak of like, I remember one time I had a falling out because I went on a date with this woman, and we were, it's actually pretty funny. She saw my lanyard here. I still got it right here. And it was like, it's Persona, right? And so she sees it, and she's like, what's that on your lanyard? And so I start explaining it to her. I'm like, oh, I'm a big fan of video games, as I've said to you. And I said, Persona is this role playing series where you're in high school, and I start giving her like a whole explanation of it. And then I get home, and I get a text from her, and she's like, "This is gonna work out." I'm like, "What happened?" I was like, we had a pretty good date. Like, what happened? Like, I wasn't even upset. I was just confused, right? And she's just like, you got really defensive when you were explaining your lanyard. And I'm like, what? What? I was like, okay, see ya. 'Cause I was just telling you that I'm a big Persona fan. But apparently I was defensive because I was just like, yeah, I really like it. I showed her my CDs. Like, I went full nerd, pretty much. That's what occurred there. Because in my car, I have this slot where I had like my Persona soundtrack stacked up, and I'd throw them in because I had a pretty old car at the time. So I would listen to CDs instead of the radio, like all that stuff. And so it was a pretty interesting turn of events there. But that's why my friends and I started joking. We're like, you're cursed, man. You got dumped over a Persona later. Like, what else is going to happen now?
Yeah, at a younger time, if something like that happens, you don't have experience that people are just weird, then... Because, like, one girl I dated, she was rowing crew. And she was awesome. She liked D&D, man. Like, she was great. And But it was like every TV show you've ever seen when I got to her house. I am telling you, Maddie, it was as if all the trash for all the houses was dumped in her house. It was like a hoarder and the dirt. So no lie, man. And she was a smoke show. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, this is fucking awesome. She's fun. She likes D&D. I hadn't gone to her place. She had come to mine. Because normally people did come to mine. My house was sort of set up in that way. And I go over, and it was, dude. I still oh, my God. I remember sitting down on the couch, getting ready to watch a movie, and there's like a plate. This is like Friends, the TV show. There's a plate of food that had been there way longer. And by the way, she's really sexual. And she gets sexual during scary movies. So we're watching a movie called The Cell, which is like a body horror movie with This is an old horror movie. And there's like this food or this plate. She's getting turned on from The Cell. She had a snake for a pet. It was like every warning. She was like a walking do not touch sign from nature. Like, just like a scorpion as a human. But you don't realize it until you go into their nest. And I escaped. By the way, she's awesome. She really is. She's just a little quirky. Everybody's quirky. But it was one of those moments, and she's nothing like that now. You know, she was young. But you get those moments where you're just like, man, that was a weird fucking experience. That'll be one, like a little notch. Like, that'll be a story to tell somebody, you know? And when you're younger, sometimes I don't want to tell people, because especially when you're younger, you have a bit of an ego, and you're just like, oh, yeah, it didn't work out. You don't want to tell them that.
Oh, dude, it was humiliating for me. Yeah, I get that entirely. Yeah. Like, when I was failing, like... My friends, I would not tell my friends after the date and they would know something went wrong because I'd just go radio silence because I'm like, I don't want to tell them, you know, I wasn't interested or it just didn't feel right. They didn't reciprocate. And it's like, you know, by the way, that's fine. There's no expectation of that, right? You want someone who wants you as much as you want them. So that's where my relationship comes into play. But, you know, when my friends would ask me, they'd be like, in the car or whatever, they'd be like, how'd it go? I'd be like, I just kind of kick my head back like, well, and they go, oh no, you know, and you're just like, you know, because I should say that not all of these were like train wrecks. Most of them were not. In fact, I'd say 99.9% are, but you feel like your life's a train wreck because you start to, not to get deep on this, but I started to look at myself and go, there must be something wrong with me because it just has to be me. So you become very self-critical. You become very like, attentive on everything you're doing because I'm like, maybe I'm just doing something that's putting people off. Maybe it's the way I talk. Maybe it's the way I approach things. Like, I'm a very nice guy. I'm a gentleman. Like, I always make sure I do like the typical stuff. Like, you open the door, close the door, all that stuff. You know, you pay the bill, everything, right? Like, no phone, like the stuff you'd expect. And I was like, man, I told my friends would be like, I said, can you guys level me? Like, I show them interactions and stuff. I'm like, is there something wrong? They're like, no, you're good, man. Like, I think it's just a bad stretch, but you're in your own head at that time. And it's like it's a weird situation, especially like you said, when you're younger. Like, that was for me from like 18 to like 23. It was 21.
Yeah, like I just think weird stretch. When you're especially 22. Like first, you know, 2 or 3 times, like I rebounded from my first one, which she was just a nightmare. And so I started breaking up with people early. So I was the person who would like date somebody, break up for littlest things. Like, it was just really stupid, really. And that went on for years. That way I wouldn't have to worry about it. I'd be like, well, I'm the one, you know, I'm jetting, I'm taking off here, and I bounce around. And what happens is, man, especially when you're younger, it does. If you're just like, oh, this must be, like you said, I never felt this way, but I have had friends who were like, well, I'm just going to be single forever. I had a friend who, no lie, was like 23, and I'm very like pro, like if it's bad, move past it, blah, blah, blah. And we were sitting down one time, and he is just all, and I'm going to talk it, I call it emo bleeding all over the place. Like, this dude was basically like a punk rock song. He's just like, I'm gonna be alone forever. And I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. Just shut up. You're not going to be. But you couldn't get him out of it because that's all he had. That was as in all the experiences he had. And you realize, especially when you're younger, and like, if they're out of, just out of school or just out of living, it's their first relationship or whatever, it can feel rough. And this guy, he was rough, man. And not in kill yourself rough, not at all. But it was one of those moments where you just listen to somebody, and I definitely learned too. When I hear somebody say, like in those situations, I'll be like, I'm never going to be that. Like, I don't ever want to be that. Because he came over and it's like, I'm just going to play sad games for the rest of my life and paint in my... And I'm just like, dude. And he was like, I'm going to move to China and teach English and just be alone or get a Chinese wife. And I'm like, wow. Like, when somebody just starts losing it, it's so easy to lose focus when you're younger, man.
It is.
And I always try to tell people not to worry about it, but it doesn't matter because everybody's hell is relative. I saw somebody laughing at, I don't know if you saw this, but Jessica Simpson lost her dog a couple years ago by a hawk flying into her backyard and grabbing it. And people were laughing at her, and she was crying. And I was like, no, you guys don't understand. Yes, she has millions or, what have you. But I'm like, everybody's hell, the emotions, all the chemical, all those are the same for everybody. So, like, that's fucking her hell, man. That's like a hellish moment for that person. And you just have to
I keep my dog close because of that. Sometimes we've seen like hawks circling, and I keep my dog close to me. Because he's very fast, so he likes to just run. So he'll move very far from me, and I pull him in because I don't want him to be just this isolated target, right? Like if I'm standing next to him, it's a little bit harder and probably less attractive.
Yeah, and I live sort of on the edge of a city where it has been known to happen. But it's just, you hear people talking about stuff when they're younger, and it's like, no matter what, like, sometimes you just have to, like, a lot of times I'll just let somebody talk, because I'll be like, if I tell them to, it'll work out, they don't, man, a lot of people don't want to hear that. Like, they want to be mired in the moment, and you're like, all right. So if you were my friend and you just went radio silent, I probably would have just let you, because I know that feeling. Where
part
you
of
just
me wanted that at times, but
yeah, right.
Like I usually do it not for attention, but it's just like, oh, look, I know. Like you're just like, I don't need to recap, right? I don't need to give you the ESPN highlights of my day. Like it just
tell the fifth friend the same story.
Yeah, because I usually don't bring it up because number one, I think it looks attention grabby. Like everyone goes on dates and they fuck up or they're good or you go on a couple of dates and you're not interested. It's a feeling out process. Like that's what it's all about. And so like I don't need to report to everyone. So because I feel like it looks like you're like, oh, listen to me and all I'm doing. It's like, no, I don't. It's my business. I don't really care unless you're interested. Then sure, I'll share it with you. But yeah, that's why I would just go like, I come home, throw the phone down, probably fire up a video game, get some food, and not even disappear. Like go off the map. Just like I don't need to check my phone. Like I don't need it right now. I just and that'd be it. Just take my my solitude and enjoy it because that's what
so everybody listening,
I love my time by myself.
Everybody listening, no matter what bad stuff can happen, you can break your femurs, you can have horrible times with girlfriends, you can always end up getting a podcast for LSM. Just be aware. Look at how amazing, like, we are living a gifted life right now. No, there's no chance of doing better than we are right now. We're at the height.
There isn't.
We're at the height. There isn't.
This is the bar. This is the bar right here.
Yeah, this is it. Shoot for this. Never aim higher, people. Shoot for mediocrity. I'm telling you right now, you'll probably hit it, and you won't fail. Well, okay, you will. All the time.
How can you miss? How can you miss if you shoot low, right?
How? Oh, that's a whole other series of stories.
How to disappoint yourself 101.
You can, yeah. When you shoot low, by the way, and you do miss, also, nothing's worse.
Yeah, that's like the equivalent of me taking like this bottle here and going like, I'm gonna shoot this into the garbage can. It's an easy shot, or I got joked on high school all the time for this. You go for an easy dunk and slam it down, you fucking miss anyway. And you're like, if I can't do that, if I can't put a bottle in a big hole,
why try? Yep.
What can I do athletically? And so that's why I didn't play hockey till I was 20. I fucking gave up.
We're done.
I gave up.
I'm not going to succeed. I'm going to work retail for the rest of my life. Which, by the way, anybody working retail, I still got your back. That's a hard job. Just want to make sure. So that's the that's the life. your girlfriend still does retail.
Mm-hmm.
She's
moving
got,
out of it.
She's
but...
got my back, man. Because dude,
yeah,
there's a hard ass job, especially now. We'll have to talk about that next time because I would like to talk about like where people are because I think people view games, money. We talked about the guy who ignores or his friends ignore reviews. Obviously, I think depending on how much money you have, you can do that. But dude, working retail was dude.
It's one thing that I almost ended up getting. Not to sound too privileged, but I almost ended up getting into working retail. It was not to hold this here much longer, but I ended up getting an offer for a job over the summer at like the Bass shoe company. Yeah. And they were just like, we'll pay you, I think at the time, like we'll start you at $11 an hour. And I was doing YouTube. YouTube wasn't like paying me much of anything. And I called them back. I'm like, I don't really know. I'm not sure about this. And they're like, we'll pay you, we think $14 an hour, which as a kid, I was like, that's pretty good. Especially this is not accounting for what minimum wage was back in 2013 or whatever. So
right.
I was hearing that and I was like, not bad. So I go to my mom afterwards because my mom is my go-to for like everything reflection. Same with my dad. You know, I just always bounce things off of them. And God bless my girlfriend. She's now that too for everything, including my channel. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this content? So bless her patience. But with this, I asked my mom and I always remember it. I was just like, yeah, so they offered me $14 an hour. And she's like, so do you want to do it? And I'm like, well, don't I have to? And she's like, do you want to do it? Is the question. I was like I'm thinking I'm being lured into a trap, right? Like I feel like I'm walking in. Yeah, right. My mom's like a cheetah. I'm the doe. I'm like, I'm fucked right now.
Gazelle, and then she's like prepping you for some kind of failure moment.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and she's not like that, but I feel it coming, right? Like, you're 18, Matt, get it together, or 17, however old I was. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, if I had a choice to not work at a shoe company, I don't fucking care about shoes. I like games. And she was just like, all right, then don't do it. I was like, holy fuck. Okay, I won't. And I call him like, yeah, I'm gonna pass. I'm working on my own thing. And here we are. Dude, doing Defining
real
Duke,
quick before
Ham
we
Radio,
end, that's the cool thing about support. When I got laid off, I paid for my wife to go to college while I was working. She wanted to get another degree, so she got her PhD. And I'm telling you, that's why if you're listening, like, don't treat your friends like shit. Don't, you may have falling outs, whatever. Try to repair those as much as you can, as long as they're not a POS, because there will be that friend who will be like, you can live with me. You don't need to do a shit job. Now, you don't want the friend who lets you get away with everything. I almost have none of those.
Yeah.
Those are bad friends, by the way. Those are the ones that at 3 a.m. you're both going to be in jail wondering how the fuck you got there. But if you have those friends who will back you up, or your mom, that shit's awesome. Like, I always knew when I first moved out, if I had to, my parents would let me back, they wanted me out. I was a mouthy, I'm probably not a fun kid to live around. But it's like, I knew I had that support system, and like you did, where your mom's like, you could look for something better. But also, dude, what would it be like? I liked my prior job, but not as much as games. And I can't even remember what that's like. As in, I know people are out there right now working at a job they don't like, and it sucks. So when you get a chance, like Maddie did, to do something you do like, if you have a support system, it's so much easier. If you have a group of people who are like, hey, we'll help you out, or a mother or a father that'll help you out. And if you don't have anybody, most of the time I think people do have somebody. But if cultivate those, because I do have a couple friends where I know if there was something just dire, most likely there would be some support system there, and it allows you to take that moment and go, I don't need the job at the shoe store. Like, and that's a cool feeling to go, I don't need that. I don't have to take that today. Yeah. Bad decisions
I did landscaping for a while, and like,
so did I.
Getting up at 6 a.m. to fucking sweat your balls off at like 95 degrees weather, 100-degree weather. Definitely a good lesson for me. I mean, I'll admit I've never worked retail or any of that, but for me, that was kind of my experience working something I didn't like. I did it because I needed extra money, and YouTube wasn't doing it for what I wanted to do for myself. And it didn't really pay a lot, but I did it anyway. But dude, I hate getting up early. If anyone knows me personally, they know I am not a morning guy. True. I am born late again. You know, like I am Mr. Late Everything, and I don't try to make it my brand. It just fucking happens. But seriously, like, you know, that to me, that was my major perspective. You know, and I think as long as you hold on to those things, when you get into our position where we're doing pretty well, we're pretty happy with our lives, you can enjoy it a little bit more, but you're not like a pompous piece of shit. Like, I'm sure no one in the audience is sitting there resenting us right now because we're not being asswipes about it. We understand. We've worked these hard jobs. You more than me, I'll totally admit, but you know, you don't. I feel like there are a lot of people who lose sight of that, of the blessing.
Dude,
we
you
have.
need to remember too. One of the first jobs I had was a mill. First day I showed up, guy lost his arm, not his hand, not his fingers, his fucking arm. And
wow.
Dude, listen to this. We only shut down for a fucking hour. This is a Pacific Northwest mill. It's money every moment. Wow. And in fact, you get these bonuses, and they'll be like, if you get this much lumber, you get pretty big bonuses. So everybody was like, sorry, John, but we got to work. I'm not lying, dude. It was so scary working there. And I was already 21. Like I was sort of, at that time, egotistical about health and all that stuff. And you're under these machines that are dropping like iron bars on accident. And I remember going like, and when I ended up quitting, and I was homeless for a little while because of that. It's the only job I've ever quit. And I was homeless because of it. I lived in my car. But I got to tell you, good decision, because there's a high chance I wouldn't have been here. It was the fucking most dangerous job I've ever seen. People would be like, they'd have fingers broken, and they'd just tape them up, and they'd be like, all right, blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like at 31. Maddie, at 31, they were crippled, man. Because mill work, people don't realize mill work is tough, and you either have the old grognards that got lucky and they're still fucked up, or the people at 31 are already, you know, just hands gnarled and stuff. So yeah, keep any bad job you have, keep a little bit of an idea of what it was like, and it'll help you in the future for sure. Yep. It'll help you make good decisions in the future. Anyway, Indeed. I don't know why we went into the Carrick and Maddie fucking advice show, but there you go.
That's I don't know either, money. But. Yeah, there it is, right? This is what we talk about when we say value for our shows between ham radio and this. I mean, my goodness. Well, there it is, right? Now you know our dating history.
Yeah, and now you know I'm really quick at dodging knives. I'm just saying.
Yes.
I'm just saying. And
I'm quick at dodging texts.
I know you're out there. yeah. And I got an Instagram sex text. It's been a good couple days. When are you streaming Mass Effect?
Man. Today we're streaming it. This will be after the fact now for everyone listening, including patrons. But we're getting into a 7:30 stream time. That's kind of the that's been the hot hour.
Late evening.
Because it's good for the Eastern time viewers. It's not great for Europe. I apologize. And it's been great for West Coast. So
yeah, right.
You know, it's best for my schedule. It's after dinner. I've ate. I feel like my day is complete. I've done my work. Now it's time to stream, right? Like that's kind of it, if I feel like it. So it's been great. Thank you to those of you from Defining Duke who tune in. Appreciate it. All right, that'll do it for episode 20 of Defining Duke. We hope all of you enjoyed, found this insightful, if not informative. And Carrick, any final words? I mean, what is our hashtag for this week? I think it's a pretty easy one to slap together based off our last 30 minutes here.
We've had some weird stories. I don't know. What do you want to do?
I like the idea of, what if hashtag Instacart? Is that a...
Well, you know what's funny? I was going to say that, but I wonder if, like, I wonder how it would show up, like, across Twitter. Nah, let's just do it.
Yeah.
We can do it. We can do it.
You want to do that? You cool?
Yeah, we can just do hashtag Instacart. I mean, at minimum, we'll show up. Maybe we'll trend because of Instacart. Who knows?
There we go. Yeah, and then Instacart will be researching, like their marketing research team will be like,
"Oh yeah,
what are they talking about, dicks?" Yeah.
No. Just in case that gets that person in trouble. I didn't even think about that because it would not be hard to figure out. You know, but
let's do hashtag advice show. That's
hashtag advice. Either one. You want to just do hashtag advice?
Yeah.
LSM advice. Wait a minute. No, what are we? Defining Duke. DD advice? That sounds like double D advice. Yeah, let's do it. Hashtag DD advice.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Hashtag DD advice. Comments, Twitter. A lot of you reach out. Let us know you engage this deep. We'd certainly love to know. I feel like those last 30 minutes were captivating. You're like sitting there with your tea, just
Should be like, now I understand.
Now we know. Now we know. So let us know. Hashtag DD Advice. We're looking forward to hearing from all of you, and we'll catch you next week with episode 21 of Defining Duke, as well as Defining Duke Ultimate. Peace out.
Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.